Welcome to Moments, the podcast, where we have conversations that matter. Hi, everyone. My name is Vasia Makris, your host and founder of Moments, a creative agency bridging art, culture, and technology. Joined by my amazing co-host, HardArt, each week we host a live X space deep diving into hot topics that are shaping the Web3 ecosystem. GM. To be honest with you, Milton, I'm cool with you playing country music for the entire duration of this space. Apparently, I surprised you this weekend, and I don't strike you as a country person, but I definitely love my country. And fun fact, we actually picked this song by Chris Stapleton because while we were in Marfa this weekend, we actually got to eat at a restaurant, and they were closing it out because Chris Stapleton was coming to eat at it. And yeah, he was apparently filming a music video in Marfa this weekend. So in honor of running into him, we decided we should kick it off with some Chris Stapleton. I'm super excited for today's episode as we talk about Marfa. I feel like many people are sort of still recovering, myself included, which is why I feel like there aren't that many people active today and in the space. I know everyone's playing catch up / catching up on sleep. That being said, I'm just going to ask everyone in the room to show some love. If we could just retweet the space, maybe get a few more people in here, that would be awesome. And yeah, I guess I'll, in the meantime, also just do some quick housekeeping for those not familiar. Milton and I host these every single Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern. It's officially Moments, the podcast. Pinned up top is kind of the entire thread explaining it, but we wanted to host meaningful conversations each week it's typically based off of trending tweets, today being an exception. Just because we were in Marfa, we obviously wanted to keep the focus on that and the importance of these IRL events. That being said, we typically just pick one tweet and have a whole debate about it. We invite people on stage and just, again, trying to have these meaningful conversations that also then get posted on Spotify, YouTube, and all the major platforms because I feel like it's important to archive these. They don't ever lose their value. And so instead of it getting lost in the Twitterverse, we decided to keep them somewhere safe. So guys, I would love it if you could subscribe. Everything's pinned up top on that tweet, all the different platforms, wherever you might perhaps listen to different podcasts, feel free to subscribe, and we hope to continue growing these. So without further ado, I just want to say GM to my co-host, Milton. How you doing, Milt? I know yesterday was a long travel day. How you feeling?
GM, I'm here. No, that's usually how I sound after a conference, but I did manage to catch up on a marathon of sleep. I was able to snooze in the plane, both legs, and then literally was asleep by 6 p.m. last night and woke up at 8 this morning. So I've gotten my share of sleep, probably, and then some. So I'm feeling really good. And I figured today would be a tough day to host a space because, like us, most people are recovering and they're playing catch up. A lot of people didn't get back till Tuesday. So, yeah, if we could do a favor, just another reminder, Vasia just mentioned, but spread this out to the experts, send a couple DMs. I'd love to have some people in the room that were there. I see a few in the crowd. Give a couple shout outs while we're here. DeSalter was one of our housemates. We got to stay at this really cool 1,100 square foot ranch called White House Ranch that we renamed Hidden Valley Ranch. And so DeSalter was one of our housemates there. I see Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller, man, I don't know how this happened, but somehow I didn't get to meet you despite one of our other friends, Seth, Low Pro for Show, was one of our housemates. And I know you guys are both from Phoenix. I figured I would get the intro, but somehow I missed you. So we'll have to do that at the next one. Maybe you'll be at Art Basel coming up real soon. I'd love the chance to shake your hand and put a name to a face. Merch is in the building. Merch had an amazing event that they hosted at the Chinati Foundation, which I got a chance to take part in and actually met Colby Mugrabi, the owner of Merch, at the airport at San Jose. I landed and I felt a tap on my back. I was rocking my hoodie and she said, "Hey, I made your hoodie." I said, "Oh, hey, you're Colby." So we got the chance to chat and say hello. And then she gave me an invite to the amazing Chinati Foundation, which we'll dig into more. As a matter of fact, I'd love to have Merch up on the stage here today because they had a great presence. Got to meet David, their head of product, who I understand also wears many hats there because they're a startup there. I imagine that's the case for a lot of the employees wearing a lot of hats. But David was great. And also met Robin, the head of community there, all great individuals. So feel privileged to have met that team and take that tour. Jose Antonio's in the room here with us. Jose, you didn't get to make it apparently, so we're going to give you the recap from afar. That's part of the purpose today. We understand that everybody couldn't make that travel, and it is a bit of a travel to get there. We'll talk a little bit more about that too. But Jose will fill you in. Gringo Hoddle, the same. I know you're busy, still working the storm. Yet is in the building. What's going on? Yet, part of our team over at Trevor Jones. Fiona Abood is here. Martin, another Trevor Jones team member, is with us. And Zero X Schuyler. Thanks for taking part. The retweets, the likes, the comments are really going to help us fill this out. I only see one comment, so help us do the comments too. That massages the algo. That'll fill this room up. But yes, I am very excited to get to talk about my first experience at Marfa today. There's lots of good things that we've got to cover. Great takeaways. I think that Marfa is an awesome muse for other event producers because they did so many things right. It was really incredible to see the level of execution there. So let's talk about it. Let's chat about it. Get some more people in the room, help us fill it out, and we'll get some of you on stage that were there to talk about it too. But yeah, Vasia, I will let you continue, my friend.
Yeah, I feel like you're so right. You just mentioned the production point of view, and I feel like I'm traumatized, like because I have produced events and put different, productions on. Like you don't look at things the same. And every time I walk into an event, I'm already like not critiquing, but I notice things that most people wouldn't. And so I definitely want to have this conversation today and really appreciate a couple of things that I noticed about what they did at Marfa. And it wasn't just art blocks. There was actually a couple different partners, which is one of the things I want to kind of focus on today. I thought was super important. But before we kick it off again, just a little bit different this week. We're not picking a tweet to kind of talk about. We're just recapping our experience in Marfa. Actually, it was both Milton and I's first time ever out there. So although we don't have anything else to compare it to, we did have a couple points we wanted to bring up. And we also wanted to, as always, open the floor. Whoever wants to just request as we're kind of going, please feel free to jump in. Even if you weren't there and you want to just add some commentary, by all means, definitely appreciate you guys joining the convo. I already see David Feinstein, I think, requested. I don't know if he was having trouble getting on, but we'll love to have him on stage as well. And yeah, Milton, I guess before we really deep dive into it, what was your just off the rip, off the bat? What did you think of Marfa? What was your experience like?
Yeah, dude, it was awesome. I had heard so many good things about Marfa, and considering I'm on the tour, I call it this year, trying to hit as many events as possible. I've been a conference maxi. I felt the need to visit this one, despite the fact that it is a little bit far out of the way. But I think that was actually my number one takeaway was that after visiting quite a few of these events, the number one thing for me is time maximization and proximity. So granted, you do pay the time tax getting to and from Marfa, but once you're there, you are in the zone. You're locked in. It's such a small, intimate town. Max 15-minute walk from the furthest, let's say White Walls Tumbleweed Gallery, for example, back over to Glitch Marfa. 15-minute walk. Most people have cars for the very reason that you do need to drive from either El Paso or Midland, Texas, about 3 hours away. So even if you don't want to walk for my ladies in heels, then you can just hop in the car, and heck, that's a 5-minute drive or less. So really easy to navigate. And personally, I would much rather take that hit on the front and back end, knowing exactly what I've got to get to through. Most people experience the layover, for example, on their flights. Very few direct flights. Vasia, I know you're in the same boat. I think James, who was one of our roommates coming from LA, was the only one who I met who actually got a direct flight. But again, knowing that you've got those on the front end and the back end, it really helps because I can think specifically, for example, from NFT NYC this year, where I got into a car thinking I was going to save time over the subway to go to an event at Loom Studios for Super Rare. And by the time we got there, we completely missed it because there was a wreck and we got redirected. And a 20-minute car ride turned into a little over an hour. So the fact that you can arrive and maximize your art appreciation, your engagement in conversations, your networking. Hell, walk around and take a damn photo if you want. You have time to do a photo tour. Or, as some people did, pop into the car and take a nap. These are possible only because you are not running like a chicken with your head cut off from event to event in uptown New York and then over to Brooklyn, or as people often complain about in Miami Basel, going across the bridge, the forbidden bridge. Don't do that, right? I do make sure to make my schedule on one side or the other if at all possible in Miami. But you don't have to worry about any of those factors when you're in Marfa. So number one for me is proximity, which gives you time maximization, enjoying the art and participating in the scene. I would also say setting was huge for me. So this little tiny desert town has so much charm. It was kind of wild to see how much was going on in it during the event. And we stayed a day after and chilled in Marfa on Monday, and how quiet it was. It's very small, very quaint, but there is a ton of charm to this little desert town. It's filled with galleries, museums, art history, and not to mention great restaurants and shops. So that was a huge factor. Just the charm of that town was dope. And man, the art execution, I think this is really what we're going to dig into deep here today. The art execution was absolutely top notch. So, from Maker's Place Loft with Jeremy Booth on these new square infinite object frames to the other white walls, Tumbleweed at the other end of Marfa, again, all of a 15-minute walk away. These guys did the attention to detail was great. Like they brought a Starlink internet connection just to ensure that the video streaming quality was on point. So I know people that do video art, like Rebecca Rose, who was there at the Tumbleweed Gallery, appreciated that. Dave Krugman's Drive event was absolutely incredible. I do love how they spread that out because Glitch Gallery is gorgeous, but it is only so big. And when you have these large events, we were able to spread out outside, basically on a private street uh, that was roped off just for the attendees. That was amazing because people were out there playing cornhole. There was barbecue, so the barbecue pit itself was outside. That gave everybody elbow room inside and outside and everything. Every single event I went to, the aesthetics were clean, polished, and just done right. And lastly, I would say the people mix. So the people mix was just a different set of people than I'm typically seeing on the tour, quote unquote. So normally now I'm know 60, 70% of people at the events, and I think that was flipped on its head. I probably only knew 30 to 40% of the people, didn't know the majority. And so got some brand new connections. Some people I hadn't met before but knew online. Some people I just hadn't heard of, period. So that was new to me, and I did appreciate that. So that's my short list of the highlights, what really stuck out to me. But Fasia, I know you had a lot of praise to give too, so I'd love to hear what stuck out to you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I won't go too much in detail, but you mentioned it. Like execution for me is huge. And I definitely think everyone across the board did a great job in executing and creating these experiences, which I'm going to explain in a little bit more detail because I have a lot to say about that. But yeah, I think it was absolutely the execution was top notch. I think you nailed it with the people as well, and seeing art blocks, not just, obviously the generative art community, but seeing them merge so many different communities as well. So I think that's also the direction that they've been growing in. And I guess before we go into more detail, in case people don't even know what we're talking about regarding Marfa and Art Blocks and what they have been doing there, let's kind of touch on super quick, Milton. Let's run through it quickly about the history. And they started hosting in 2021, and this is their fourth year essentially doing it. Can you just kind of touch upon quick the history before we kind of dive deeper?
Yeah, absolutely. So they've been running this since 2021, and their goal was to bring together artists, collectors, and enthusiasts, mainly in the generative art space. And, in 2021, of course, they're celebrating the platform's immense success, right? Crummy squiggles are all over the timeline. People are trying to wrap their head around what's so special about a squiggle, but this was an effort to make people understand more. And that's one of the reasons that I went, because I've never been a big collector on the generative art side. So it was really interesting to learn the process and some of the coding that goes on behind this. So the inaugural gathering back then included art exhibitions, panel discussions, and opportunities to connect with others that were passionate about that generative art side and blockchain-based art. So the choice of Marfa was intentional because it's known for its artistic heritage and super minimalist aesthetic, and that set the tone for Art Block's commitment to meaningful, community-focused events. So it's grown a ton since then. That was a pretty intimate event. I understood that last year there were about 500 people, and this year it's about 700 plus. So it is getting bigger. As Vasia mentioned, it is starting to attract people outside of the generative art space, like myself. So I do like that intermixing. I thought Lisbon did a great job of intermixing communities, and we're such a small space right now. I do like the fact of bringing our little islands, so to speak, together, building these bridges. So that was nice. Yeah. So what was interesting about last year, outside of the growth, it was a generative art community, but we saw it expand into the larger art community. And I think that was the case again this year. I think a lot of first time attendees we met. So that was nice. And I expect, considering on the success of this event and all the great press that it got, that we probably see an even bigger Marfa next year, which is sort of a blessing and a curse, right? Like it's so cool because it's intimate, but I do think more people should experience that. So I heard about it 10 times and how remote it was before I took the plunge. But hopefully, this space today gives some people some encouragement to visit next year because it really is an awesome, awesome place filled with high execution, art first, and an amazing crowd. So hopefully, if you're in the room and didn't get the chance to go this year or haven't been ever, do visit next year. Vasia, you mirror that thought?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're starting to definitely move away from like the big conferences and like those are very corporate and anyone that's been to NFT NYC or LA, like you know what I'm talking about. Even Miami, our Basel Art Week, it's like things are kind of going on everywhere. And I feel like this is much more intimate. It's much more tuned in, art first focused, which I really love. And again, you mentioned like production point of view. I mean, for sure, there was things that I noticed just having that background. And one of the things I want to focus on is like how well executed and how nice it was to see multiple players getting involved. So although this is an Art Blocks event, and of course Nofro and his team were the main hosts, I was definitely impressed by the other partners that got involved. I actually see two of them in the audience, so I don't know if they're able to jump on stage and want to jump in the convo, but White Walls was hosting, Maker's Place, Glitch Gallery, OpenSea, Hive Mind, Merch, Tribute Labs. Like these were some of the sponsors and partners. And to me, this was a perfect example of people coming together, working together, sharing their resources, and just building stronger and having a better presentation versus competition. And I say this all the time: like we're too early to be competing with each other, and it's all about just coming together and building something better and stronger. So, again. Floor is open if anyone wants to jump on stage, but I did want to just touch on some of these partners. Okay, awesome, Devin, because we were going to talk about White Walls first. I don't know if he's alive because he was doing a lot of running around this week, but Devin, GM, how are you?
Hey, GM guys, thanks so much for inviting me and having me up, man. I got a full day of rest in yesterday, and I'm finally back at it in the office. It has been an absolute whirlwind of a week. I'm so tired, but yeah, just happy to be home and back on the grind. But man, what an incredible week! It was so nice hanging out with you guys.
I'm jealous of both you and Milton because apparently you're both caught up with sleep. I cannot wait for a nap, but no, you guys crushed it, and I'm super happy that everything went smooth. You guys, it looked amazing production wise, and I just wanted to basically give a little intro, like for people that are not familiar. Can you actually talk about White Walls and what you guys do and what you did in Marfa?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you so much again. So White Walls. I see a lot of familiar faces, so I'm not gonna go too deep on the pitch there. But yeah, we have built a software that kind of turns your standard old TV displays into digital art displays. And yeah, we've been doing a lot of testing. We've been building the product for quite some time now. We launched just under 4 months ago. And yeah, we traveled into Marfa, a place that very much holds a sweet spot in our heart. So the story that maybe some people don't know is that myself, and my business partner Jerkel, came into Marfa last year for the first time. Just we drove there. It's about a 9-10 hour drive from where we live in Texas, and so it seemed like kind of a no brainer to get out there into the middle of nowhere and try something different. Like you said, it's just such a different vibe than NYC or LA or Basel or anything. And we just found last year that it was just this incredible curation of folks that choose to make that trek. And so I said this on the panel that I was in too, but I knew that I could look out into the crowd and I could see everybody. And I knew that just because they attended and they made that trek, that they were very serious. And we have the same vision and mission for the future of kind of moving the needle, if you will, for what digital art should become and needs to become in order for this to continue on the right trajectory. And so just what an incredible group of folks. And we noticed that last year. And we had actually gone out a year ago with the very first non-developed click-through prototype of White Walls. It was just the phone app component of it. We didn't know nearly as many people a year ago, but we showed maybe 20, 30 people just kind of the idea that we had. Like, what do you think of this? Is this a viable idea? Would you use this? And we just gathered a bunch of feedback, and it was that feedback that we got last year in Marfa that really helped us kind of reset our sights on, what the future of kind of our brand looked like. And we immediately transitioned, a big piece of our agency over to working exclusively on White Walls shortly after Marfa last year. And so yeah, it just holds this very special place for us, where it was the first place that we showcased and we got feedback, and the people there just made a huge impact on us. And so going out this year, it was kind of the big thing for us since launch. I mean, we planned it immediately as soon as they announced the date, and for us it was like, we can either do this, or we can maybe get a larger presence if we did an activation in New York or at Basel or whatever the alternatives are. But we went all in on Marfa. Ended up taking a massive 15-person Sprinter van up with our whole team. Bought 14 TVs. Ended up with a total of, I think, 23 displays, including the incredible like retro TV installation that Delta Sauce did. I'm sure y'all have seen some pictures of that. It was absolutely incredible. So yeah, we ran 23 total Apple TVs and displays, brought everything up in a Sprinter, just had a whole blast. The production side was a first for us. We've definitely supported some events in the past, but really going up there and having two locations, like y'all said, the gallery space, which was this gorgeous Airbnb that we had found, just sort of an empty shell. We popped that up in just a couple hours after getting there the first day. Turned out beautifully. We were just thrilled with the way that came out. And then the loft as well that we kind of hosted with Maker's Place. It was just these two kind of, someone had described it as like the end caps. So like the farther north and the farther west. And it was sort of this L shape that everyone would kind of walk all day long and hit sort of the usual suspect spots. Because it is a small town. I mean, even like 700 people flocking into this very tiny town of what I think is like 1,700 population, I think is what I saw on the sign. And so it is very, large for their community to have all of us there. And there's only so many places to be. And so we wanted to just provide another place for people to kind of hang their hat and to be. And anyways, in the end, I think we did like 15 different exhibitions. We had 3 evening events at each of the locations. We showed hundreds of new pieces of work. Man, I was, it did not go without fault though. It was not the perfect week. Put out a lot of fires, and the team ran around like chickens with their heads cut off for several days. But anyways, I'll stop there for now. We can maybe dive deeper into that if y'all want to. But overall, absolutely beautiful place. Was exciting to just be there again and to be participating in a more active role.
Yeah, how full circle. Congratulations on, being there a year ago and look at where you guys are now. That's amazing. And for anyone that knows my background and intro to Web3, they definitely understand why it's so important for me personally to see something like White Walls come out, and definitely having a platform where people can, in their homes, exhibit artwork on the existing screens. I think it's a huge, huge missing component to this industry, and it looks like you guys are definitely filling it up. And I really excited for you guys, wishing you the best of luck as you continue to grow. But absolutely, I agree. It was the right demographic for you guys to target just from a business perspective. And again, you guys crushed it. Like, I can't imagine White Walls not having that presence there. I think it definitely wouldn't have had the same impact overall as an event. So, and you guys gave a lot of artists the opportunity to exhibit their work. I'm actually going to hand Milton the mic. Milt, maybe you want to just touch upon who was exhibited and mention some names just to show some love to the artists that were participating.
Yeah, let me just jump in here and say that that's an incredible show for your first one. I would have had no clue had you not mentioned that. So bravo to you. I know that you guys, you just talked about putting out fires, but I must say you could barely even see smoke. I know that, for instance, when Rebecca Rose made her epic journey, she got there just in time for her showing. I did see a couple of the videos starting to lag. And by the time I found somebody to tell, didn't need to tell them because they already knew. And so what happened was somebody had knocked over the Starlink and it reverted back to the Wi-Fi of the location, which wasn't quite strong enough to run video. But I swear I was the only person to notice that, because there was already a rep running around frantically making sure that all the TVs were back up to speed. As a matter of fact, Devin, I think even though you were running the show, you jumped in and helped and had a remote in hand, bringing those videos back to life. So I got to say, you guys absolutely killed it. I mean, from day one, we can kind of go in order. So you just talked about Jeremy Booth. That was the first exhibition that I went to, and that was up on the loft. That was just a beautiful location, period. But you guys had some amazing screens there that I hadn't seen before. I didn't recognize them, and I started asking around. And you guys probably debuted, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but probably debuted these infinite object screens with wooden frames. So, like, what better way to highlight Jeremy's dynamic art and his Western cowboy visuals than with these cool rustic wooden frames that I haven't seen before? If you've seen infinite objects, you know, typically they are acrylic, a clear acrylic. So, really good looking screens, very sharp. I think I just point out too, you've been really modest and nobody's spoken about this, but I wouldn't be surprised if that helped sell a lot of this art, because I understand that six figures of art were sold between Jeremy Booth and some other artists that were on display. So I think a commercial success is in order, though it's funny that we bring that to the last. A lot of times the commercial, the money, the dollar figures are first and foremost, but it took us 30 minutes to even mention any dollar amounts. So I think that's cool. And that was definitely present there. The conversation about art was there over money. So yeah, we mirrored that today on the space, but it is quite a feat, especially as the market picks up on crypto, but maybe not quite art so much. We're starting to see it bubble, that you guys were able to move so much art, and I'm sure the artists are appreciative of that too. So that was great. Going through some of the other artworks that were on display, I didn't catch all these, so I'll comment on the ones that I did, but I'll go through them all by name. So the second space, the Tumbleweed, it was called, that had Douglas, Alyssa Stevens, Delta Sauce, F. Dot times Did in his new generative project, Rebecca Rose, as I mentioned, Ryan Copeman's Monster Mike did a big show to close out one night there. Derek was there, Daniel Koth, Connor Grasso, Vinny Hagar, and Nice Day Jules. So I can comment briefly on a few of those that I did get to attend. So I got to see Delta Sauce, which was cool. I think when it comes to AI, it's easy to write off AI as, you know, a lot of people say still that it's not an art form. But when you got the chance to talk to Delta Sauce himself, and you realize what some of the inspirations were behind the magazine, the Issues magazine, which was there on site as well. And it was even in a little newspaper box, like a physical box that you would open. So he was there signing those. And I learned for the first time really what a lot of the inspirations were behind the different magazine articles. For example, if you see a shark in his work, that comes from Shark Week on Discovery Channel, which he loved as a kid. So you got to hear all those stories. That was a super clean gallery, really well done. Each of those pieces kind of spoke together, especially after you learn the stories. F Dot's in the building. And so F Dot has been watching generative from afar, I think, for a while. I think he's had respect for it. I don't think he wanted to jump on the train just to be on the train. I think he wanted to develop something that actually meant something for him and for his collectors. And so he's been working, he called it a slow cook for 2 years, making sure that the outputs are to his liking. And that was cool to walk around too, because I saw some black and white. You know, you normally know F Dot for his colors, but you know, one of my favorite pieces is tessellations, black and white. You don't see a ton of black and white outputs from him, but there were quite a few on display. And actually, the crowd, I think those were the crowd favorites, were the monochrome ones. Whereas me, I really liked kind of the one color or two color pieces. For example, having white walls in the building was very cool because we were sitting there next to Devin. There was a blue piece that looked very three-dimensional to me. I swore there were different layers to it until you walked right up on it. And F Dot said, "Hey, you want to see another one like that since you like it?" And Devin was standing there. He said, "Hey, flip it to the green one." And Devin flipped it to the green one with a flick of a switch on his phone on the very convenient White Walls app. So that was nice to see. And then, of course, you had those, Devin mentioned it earlier, but you had a really cool visual on old CRT vintage TVs too. So you didn't have just your nice slick new school screens. You had old school screens too. And I didn't realize it, but yeah, I guess they were casting directly from white walls even onto the old school screens. So lots of F Dot's line art was represented there with the Marfa neon sign above it. That was a great visual. I caught some cool photos of Merve and Flexosaurus Rex talking on the couch right in front of that. But that was a great exhibit. Rebecca Rose, of course, shined, especially as those videos came to life with a good internet connection, which is not always possible in remote Marfa, but they pulled it off without a hitch. So Rebecca had some Western pieces there too, which of course spoke to Marfa very well, but got to see what we called flying through a diorama with a drone artwork. I thought that was a good description I heard throughout the weekend describing Rebecca's art. Ryan Koopmans I didn't catch. Monster Mike, somebody will have to jump on stage to talk about the performance. The next one I saw was Daniel Koth. Daniel had a special exhibit, I thought, because of course you got to see his composite artwork. He had some of his emoji imagery that you see in his artwork. But I think the most special thing he did was, if you look at Devin's new PFP today, he was doing a very special portrait. He was doing a portrait session right there, impromptu, so you could sit outside. We were lucky with the weather that day. We did have mostly sunny skies, but we had some clouds too. So we got the iconic blue skies from DK in the background. So I've seen quite a few people change their profile picture, Vinny Hagar included, to that blue skies PFP. So that was cool. Connor Grasso, I also thought was great. You got to talk about his process. I didn't realize that he was the one behind the mask in all of his photos, in multiple iterations of himself. He's doing some timer photography. Really got to vibe with him and talk about what one of them meant to me versus what one meant to him. Always like that back and forth. And Nice Day Jules, I would say, is the last one that I attended. And Nice Day Jules was an absolute epic fucking party. There's no other way to put it. And I got to learn a lot about the cool mechanics that he does, different dynamic stuff that I haven't heard before. So he's really innovating. And he had a badass taco truck outside to boot. So that was another opportunity where that White Walls Tumbleweed gallery was so freaking full that you needed an outside diversion like that food truck, which was super authentic, spicy, got me sweating out some toxins. You definitely needed that to break up the space a little bit, to have some people indoors and outdoors. So that was a mouthful. Vasia, I'm sure you've got some highlights to cover yourself, but yeah, obviously I've got a lot of goodies to say about it.
Well, actually, I see F. Dot, aka Birthday Boy, on stage. So I do want to give him the mic if he has a second, if he wants to talk about his project, the exhibition, and just overall his experience in Marfa. F. Dot, are you there? Are you able to jump in? I'm going to take that as a no. But it was awesome seeing him as well as many others. And we did have a chance to celebrate his birthday this weekend. So if you guys didn't know, maybe shoot him a message. It was F. Dot's birthday over the weekend. And yeah, I mean, I think you went over everything in great detail. I mean, there was the one I did get to catch was the Monster Mike and what he did, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, because one other, I think, other category I want to just touch upon outside of just the partners that were involved was the activations and more the performances, which you don't really see that often. So regarding, I think, White Walls, Devin, if there's anything else you want to add, by all means, jump in. But I did want to also just touch upon Maker's Place and what they specifically as a marketplace kind of did. But Devin, I don't know. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that that we might have F. Dot took his mic off. So if he wants to jump in first, I'm happy to have him do that. I wanted to touch on a little bit about what I loved about working specifically with F. Dots. Maybe I'll cue him up here if his mic's working and he's ready. But one of my favorite things was what you said, HardArt, when you were like, I want to change it from the blue one to the green one. And so one thing that we were like kind of really planned for and that we loved about the spaces is that we were able to like modularly adjust them in real time. And so like a lot of times if a gallery does a changeover, like they kind of kick people out and then they reorganize, then you can like welcome people back in. For us, we were like, we're going to do all of our changeovers live at the top of the hour. And so every 2 hours on the hour, we had the artists come in. I mean, every artist we exhibited with was there, with the exception of Did, with his, of course, collaboration with F-Dot, but of course we had F-Dot there. And we literally walked around the room and we had preloaded channels, of course, that I hope some people have been able to enjoy at home. And we took the first 10 minutes of each set and just kind of went, all right, what do you think? Should we put this one here? No, let's move that one over there. And we just did it sort of live. And as you kind of blink, and then all of a sudden the whole space was just kind of changed. And we wanted to do that because I think it shows the power of what the app can be and how quickly it works and all that. But it was a really fun thing for me. I didn't expect it to be so much fun to like just work directly with artists like F. Dot and some other folks that I was able to do, like Alyssa Stevens. We did a great changeover and all that, and it was just so much fun to be like to get into their brains a little bit as we did these changeovers. And we had a bunch of time kind of setting up the space, and I put in some input, and then we sort of just went back and forth. So I loved that, and maybe that kind of cues up F. Dot into whatever you'd like to say.
Man, What an incredible weekend. Damn. Thank you for all the beautiful highlights. Hard Art and Devin. I kind of came into this conversation a little bit late, like 15 minutes ago, but glad I popped in when we were talking about White Walls Gallery, because it was really cool what you did, and being able to change over exhibitions like that, and do 15 different, I think you said 15, or was it 11? Something between 10 and 20 different exhibitions in one weekend is really impressive, especially considering you didn't have to kick people out at all. It was just keep switching the furniture around a little bit, rotate the TVs sometimes, horizontal to vertical, and that is just really impressive. I think a lot of galleries are going to be blown away by that when you tell them that's what you did. Traditional galleries having a screen or two like doesn't seem so crazy anymore when they hear something like that. But really an honor to get to preview the project that I've been working on with Did. It's such a special project, and obviously it's rooted in my hand-drawn work, which I put a lot of time into. So not only is it like a generative art piece, but it's just culmination of years of drawing this style and this idea, kind of pacing around it for a long time. So thank you for all the feedback. And I was also blown away that people wanted to see the black and white stuff more than the color. It was also my first ever pure digital show. I guess I've done Loom Studios, but there's usually a physical element. And in Marfa, going out there, I thought about bringing a lot of physical work with me, and I was like, let's just see what we can do with digital to test the idea. And I think you guys really knocked it out of the park in both galleries. Just some of my favorite moments. I think just seeing, because at the end of a slot, at the end of the 2-hour slot, that was kind of the way I made it work, was like I would go catch the last 40 minutes of an artist's show at White Walls, and then I would stay for the first 40 minutes of the next artist. And then I would go get lunch and then kind of see something else and then come back. And it was just like this loop that we kept doing. And it was always just beautiful curation and beautiful ideas being shared and conversations being had. You were also conveniently located near the best sandwich shop in town, so that was great. What else? I can't say enough good things about this weekend, and it was also great to stay with you, Hard Art on the ranch in Vasia. We had this. I don't know if you said it in the beginning of the space, but just seeing how isolated you are out there when you rent a space that's close to Marfa, you can just really unplug from everything that you might be stressing about in your hometown. It's just so peaceful. That's why I think I'm going to go back again and again and keep trying to work on gallery projects in Marfa, and just really excited to keep sharing about the city's project as we get closer to doing like an official show for that. And thanks for listening, and lovely to hang out with you all. And Paper Buddha, it was great to have so many conversations with you as well. Wish all of you could have made it. I guess I'll pass it back to you, Vasia.
Yeah, it was awesome. Honestly, I did get to meet a lot of new people, but more importantly, I feel like I got to really hang out with people I knew and really build out those relationships. So super grateful we all got to hang, and yeah, Marfa was definitely magical. I did pin up a tweet and some of your work that was on the screen as well for people that just visuals help, but feel free, F. Dot, to also pin up anything from your project as well to just share with the audience as we talk about it. But yeah, again, awesome experience just having everyone there. And I did want to just talk about some of the other partners that were involved, which one of them being Maker's Place. And we have had multiple marketplace conversations. I definitely, if you know me, have my opinion on marketplaces, but I do want to just shout them out and really give them a lot of love for what they did in collaboration with White Walls and Jeremy Booth with the exhibition, and just showing his latest collection. Like Milton mentioned, they also sold a lot of that work and they got to move a lot of those pieces. But it was something that we honestly haven't seen many marketplaces do, at least not, consistently. I feel like a few of them, including Nifty Gateway and such, have started to take this pivot toward more of that studio and kind of white glove approach. But it was really nice to see how well executed the actual event was and how professional. Like, they did some filming for Jeremy, like behind the scenes, and had him interviewed and kind of really storytelling. And Jeremy was also there in person. It was obviously awesome just getting to meet him. He was signing these postcards. I know Milton collected a full set that he definitely wants to frame. So again, it was just a very nice experience from more of a collector and audience perspective. And just wanted to shout them out and essentially give them a lot of props to start seeing marketplaces make these investments in IRL events, I think is huge. I think it's super important, and it really helps just storytell, which I'm a huge advocate for. I think it just has a different type of impact when you're able to really get to know the artist and get to see the behind the scenes. And when it's done to such a quality of level, I think it just elevates the work all around. So I'm excited to hopefully continue to see these types of executions done by by marketplaces. I know we wanted to also, and by the way, guys, I know some of you were in Marfa. If you want to just join the stage and jump in the convo, feel free to just add your comments. But Milton and I are just going to continue to run through a few of the rest of the partners. Milton, you want to touch upon Glitch Gallery? I know we got to meet oh, Devin threw hands up. Go ahead. Oh, yours, Mike is all
Hey,
yours.
Thank you so much. Yes, no, I've got to jump into a meeting here in a minute, so I just wanted to wrap. But I wanted to specifically, yes, thank the partners that came in with us. Maker's Place, absolutely included. They helped sponsor the loft space, so we had those screens, which Milton had brought up earlier. So I wanted to. We've got a nice group going in here, so I thought maybe I'd throw y'all a little bit of alpha about those infinite object screens before I make my exit here. So yeah, if you've seen pictures of them, they are absolutely stunning. It's insane. We're literally, I've got them all here in my office right now, and we're just hanging one up because they were so gracious as to let us keep one for a while. And they did, yeah, they sold, I think, 3 out of the 4 of the pieces. I think 2 of them they're selling with the piece on it. And so the people even like paid extra to have this new frame, but it's, I think, a 26-inch matte display, absolutely beautiful, surrounded in like gorgeous wood instead of the acrylic. It is truly an incredible consumer display, and I am excited to introduce informally, we'll just say for today, but we have been working a lot with Infinite Objects behind the scenes, and we are hopefully aiming for a February ship date on a White Walls Infinite Objects collaborative screen. So we all know Infinite Objects, of course, is sort of printed video works. And so you kind of get your screen and you have one amazing piece that sort of is on repeat all the time. And they've absolutely mastered that as a medium. We've been in chats with them for quite some time, and we are deep into testing right now on this 26-inch screen being fully run by a White Walls module in the back end. So you'll be able to eventually, we're aiming for a February ship date. I don't know the price of them yet. I'll have to get back to you guys when we do a more formal announcement. But yeah, we were kind of letting people know and get them kind of early alpha on this super exciting collaboration with us. It'll be their first sort of modular screen and our first official hardware partner as well. So you can look forward to seeing those gorgeous square screens running White Walls in the coming months. And we're very excited about that. But yes, before I go, last just shout out Maker's Place, Atomic Form. Our private dinner that we did on the last night was the Proof Collective Supper Society. So we had a beautiful dinner with them. Yeah, to everyone that came out, thank you for all the support. It's been absolutely incredible. I don't think it's actually really fully hit me yet that it was just, I'm proud of the work that the team did consistently. I'm thankful for every single person that I met. So many of you guys in the crowd I now consider to be very close friends. And just, you have so many conversations with someone and you see them around the bend everywhere you go. And it's hard not to just develop such strong, incredible connections. Of course, thankful for you guys. We got to spend an awesome night at that ranch with y'all on the last night. My wife and I extended our stay, had an absolute blast celebrating F. Dot's birthday. Yeah, anyways, all around just thankful, proud, excited, and couldn't be more thrilled to do it all over again next year.
Thank you for sharing. And I love that alpha. That's going to be massive. I'm very excited to see that come to life. And yeah, congratulations again to you and the team for what you guys did, especially as a first production. But again, just leaving your mark on Marfa. I think White Walls was definitely one of the talks of the town. So super excited and looking forward to next year for sure. Devin, thanks for joining us and taking the time. I know you're still recovering, but hope to chat soon. Stephen, I do see a hand up. Would love to have you on stage to share your take. Were you in Marfa and I missed you as well? Is this what happened?
Yes, that is exactly what happened. I really, really was hoping to run into both you and HardArt, and I guess only those that met me there will understand this joke. But I guess you guys just didn't look down enough because I was definitely the shortest person on prem. But I wanted to give a lot of props to Devin and team real quick because straight up, like I've had a lot of respect for what they've done across the last year plus in the space, but if you are looking to launch a platform like for Web3 application, especially in the art space, there are fewer better ways that you can stress test your application than doing exactly what they did. And having been in startups for 10 plus years now, like I cannot stress it enough that like you need to be stress testing your shit. Otherwise you end up, I don't know, like half of the other, people who've tried to tackle display that have failed miserably. So do your damnedest to like put it into those environments that are really going to put it through its paces. So Devin, I have a lot of love for you and the team. Tip of the cap there. But beyond that, it also was further impressed upon to me because we saw a post come out that I don't know if a lot of people are aware of. I think it came out on Sunday as we were like all leaving Marfa, but Token Frame officially came out of the woodwork, and after months and months and months of complete radio silence, made a statement to their community that basically saying like we take full account for not being communicative, but also being fully fucking incompetent. So hopefully we start to see people like White Walls take over those platforms because it's been insane for the users over there that have just been completely bricked. They've had a screen that hasn't worked. It further, pushes the point of why White Walls is so damn important. So I'm a very big proponent of them if you can't tell, but I really enjoyed getting the chance to see what they did at the gallery setting, get the chance to really sit and appreciate these works, right? Because in that type of environment with Marfa, you look around and you're like, okay, I'm here for generative art, but holy shit, there's performance artwork, there's entirely different illustration categories. Like, what exactly did I really just get myself into? So there's really something for everybody out there. Cannot recommend it highly enough. I was at the very first one and then I was at this one. So I had a 2-year gap in there and got to see a very strong contrast between events. But yeah, I can't recommend it highly enough. And if you're looking at all into that last Jeremy Booth piece that Maker's Place had out, another really cool little bit of alpha that he shared on my show last night that I didn't think was out there, and it definitely wasn't after I got to talking with him. He's actually going to take those infinite objects frames back home first, and when he gets there, he's actually going to use his Jeremy Booth brand, like the metal brand, to brand the frame itself for the people who purchased it, which I thought was a really, really wonderful touch. Certainly just like deepens the brand connection, which I love. So yeah, look, wanted to just share that, but all love to those that are on stage. To Seltzer, Paper Buddha, F Dot, had a pleasure getting the chance to meet you guys. It was truly something I've looked forward to a ton. And just these are the types of connections that you don't lose in this space when the events like that you hold on to these connections for a long time. So very much so looking forward to the next event. And Vasia, Hard Art, yes, let's definitely connect in Miami. I would really love to be able to meet you both.
Dude,
Definitely. Go ahead, Mills. Go ahead.
I was gonna say Daniel Koth is gonna have some words with you, claiming to be the shortest person on site. But hey, we'll let you guys take that up. But
Yeah, you want to know what's really funny? You brought the two shortest guys on site into Marfa, Texas, and he lives 5 minutes from my house. So like you literally had to take the two shortest guys in Web3 out of their element into this, and it was just really funny to see that happen in real time. But yeah, a lot of love for Daniel. His exhibition was top notch too. God, they crushed it.
He gave me the opportunity to photograph him at the end of his slot. So I got to give Daniel DK his own treatment on the blue sky, which was kind of fun. Yeah, seeing everyone use the props, I didn't even know there were props, so I kind of like just did a regular portrait session. But the whole idea of just taking his little visual elements and just putting them in front of your face or whatever, it's so interactive and fun. I think that was a big takeaway for me too. Clown Vamps exhibition had a really big interactive element to it, and there were a few other things around the town, like the live plotting that was happening, that you could see the art being made right in front of you. There was just this element of participatory art that I'm now scratching my head about how do I work that into my projects more in the
Well, I mean,
future.
there's a lot of ways that you can go about it too, and I was just going to make one quick note on it because I thought it was really really fascinating to watch. You also had a lot of live mashup opportunities, which I didn't think was going to be such a centerpiece, but it eventually became it. So you had like Vinny Hager who was doing live doodling in his exhibition, and then he actually had an entire piece that was a print of Conor Grasso's work that he had doodled on, and they mashed up live there in Marfa. And then you talk about what you just did with DK, like it just goes to further the point that a lot of these artists, they really do take these opportunities where it's a lot more laid back to even collaborate, right? And break out of their own shells and do things that they wouldn't normally have the opportunity to do because we're also, spread out around the world. I thought that was beautiful, and I thought that was that was really cool that you had the opportunity to do that with DK. Flipping the table is always fun.
I don't know if anyone mentioned it yet, but Snowfro gave a shout out to White Walls and the whole digital art community in his speech. Like he was talking about how it was going from being just a generative art event and being more welcoming to other kinds of art. That was a really cool moment. I think just to see that event go from one thing to being much bigger and more welcoming to different types of artists. Because I was there last year, and it was really all generative art and physical forms of generative art. So I hope that it keeps growing. I hope we see a photography exhibition next year. I hope we see more sculptures, and there was some of that happening at the Art Blocks house, but it's going to become, who knows, like maybe even more important than Art Basel for our community. I mean, how many thousand people probably go to Miami versus go to Marfa? I feel like it could flip one day.
No, I definitely agree with you. Like, I've been on the fence regarding Miami because it's not only flooded with so many people outside of just Web3 community, but it's all over the place. Like, Milton mentioned the bridge before and what a nightmare that is. Like, I really think that they nailed it with this physical, like this natural setting of Marfa, and how well it just naturally curates the audience that attends, but also, again, just keeps everyone congregated in one place. Paper Boot, I think you unmuted your mic and you were about to jump in. So if you did, feel free, grab the mic. GM.
GM. Yeah, I finally made it home to Kansas City this morning at about 7:30 a.m. So so had a lot of fun in Texas. Got really crazy. Yeah, I was talking about this last night, I think, with Mike Nash, and I think we're at the point of no return with Marfa. There's even if Art Blocks disappeared, we would still all go out there. Half of the event was not Art Blocks, was not generative art. At least half of the event, fine art folks and builders and creators. And so I think it's a testament to what Eric and the team at Snowfro have done. At Art Blocks have done, as far as really creating that groundswell, making something really special. It's high signal, low noise. And yeah, you know what? It's a trek to get to the high desert on the border, 30 minutes from Mexico. It's not easy to get out there. The nearest hospital is an hour and a half away or something. You got to fly in. Unless you're flying private, you're going to have to fly into like El Paso or San Antonio and take a 3 or 4 hour drive. And that is a barrier to entry that I think is great. It's sure it's not fair for everybody that it's so far out, but the world's not fair. For those of us that did make the sacrifice and got out there, I didn't see one person that wasn't out there networking and making the most out of their time. When you make that kind of a journey, I think I'll speak for myself. When I make that kind of a journey, I am way more attentive to my show goals, to making sure I'm doing business, to making sure that I'm not just partying and getting so drunk that like I can't talk to other people. Right? We've all seen that at Miami. That Chad collector, oh, I'm a whale, and then like 3 beers into it, and he's all falling all over you and stuff. It's a bad look that most people engage in. That wasn't really happening in Marfa. A couple people, but for the most part, again, people are more guarded with their time when you have to spend so much time, energy, and effort to get to a place. Um, you know, you typically don't screw around as much. So it was great. It was really great to make solid connections with people that I already know and love, and like really deepen those connections. Um, really deepen the connections with kind of the adjacent folks, people that I've been kind of in their periphery for the last few years, to get down and just like have a talk and be like, hey man, how's it going? All of a sudden the algorithm's not there. A lot of the online social stuff isn't there, so we can just kind of cut through the bullshit and talk to each other like humans, which was really great. Um, and then yeah, I think the being able to work with other artists in a way that we wouldn't normally was really cool. Kind of that on the spot collabing that was happening with a lot of people. Everywhere I looked, it was like, oh my God, look at that big ass artist and that big ass artist just hanging out and having a good time and building stuff together with no intent of minting it or anything. It was just like, we're going to make art and hang out, which was really wholesome and really refreshing. I didn't really hear people go, like, oh, I got this mint coming up. And like, I didn't hear anybody shill shit like that unless it was their show, right? Like, and even then, people were a little awkward. Like, bro, I don't want to sit here and show my stuff for an hour. I'd rather like be social with the people at my show. So, it was really, really refreshing. I think it helped a lot. I know it helped me refocus in a big way, uh, thinking about the things that are really important in the space versus not, not getting caught up in, for me, you guys know I like to throw events. So not getting caught up in this whole lunch and brunch and like being opulent at every single event throughout the year and trying to do it, maybe a little bit more selective. Maybe we do Art Basel and maybe we do something in the north somewhere, right? And kind of get some spread. But I don't think I need to do 80 million events. You know, yeah, so that's kind of my ramble on it. And then the other thing, just a business strategy thing for anybody in the room, um, at any event that you're at, get there early, stay late, help people set up, be of service. This is how I network. Like, yeah, these parties are great, but in the thick of the party, I don't want to be yelling over people and spitting in people's face with my badass breath, because I'm smoking weed and shit. I'd much rather just like get there early and talk to the people as we're setting up. And I got a chair in my hand, we're putting it down, and we can talk. And then afterwards, staying behind and helping people break down, and that's incredible for networking, just being a good citizen of crypto. So yeah, I'm incredibly grateful for everybody. Um, I can talk all morning, but I won't.
I can jump in there, PB. Yeah, dude. Great points you brought up. One is, I think you're right. If Art Blocks disappeared, then the show would go on. So it was really interesting to see what I thought was going to be a fully generative art show. And there were quite a few different elements brought into the mix. I'm going to throw some light over onto Lisbon. So Non-Fungible Conference, I thought, had that same concept. And both of these have worked out really well. So NFC, for example, had the ordinals crowd, had the meme coin crowd, and they all intermixed. And I think the same thing happened here at Marfa to a huge degree. Another shout out to White Walls. I don't think that would have been possible to have so many people within the mix unless you were able to turn over so fast. I actually hadn't considered that turnover because I don't throw events like you and Vasia do. But I'm glad that Devin touched on that because the amount of shows that you can produce and stress test as well, as Steven mentioned, which is a great point, is unobtainable unless you have that digital component where you can cast nicely from your phone via the app. So that was cool. I agree with you 100%. High signal, low noise. Um, yeah, it is a sacrifice. So there's a filter. I know Vasia had that in the notes. I'm going to steal her point, but it's a great filter. You know that there's not too many tourists there and that people are there to engage, to do business. Some people got drunk. You mentioned not many. I hate that you threw me out there as the one guy that did publicly, but I'll take it on the chin and I'll try and revise my behavior for Miami. Thank you for the sound effect board. I'm the only one that ever runs that. I appreciate that. So canned laughter is always a good thing. But yeah, lastly, man, I would say UPB, you talked about get there early and stay late. We did that. And that was epic too. And I got to give you a shout out because you were the one who said, hey, let's go over to White Walls and let's help break down the loft. And there were quite a few stairs up to that loft. And so taking down heavy coolers and cooking equipment, Devin's wife, Lana, was whipping up mad good food all weekend and she needed a lot of equipment to do so. So yeah, we got the crew together, our Hidden Valley Ranch crew, we call it. Those that stayed out at the ranch, we were able to bring down a lot of their equipment to get it into the car. So that was nice. I think that's a nice touch, just a personal touch to do some favors for people who did favors for us, showed us a great time, fed us, kept us engaged with the art, let us meet the artists. I actually hadn't met Jeremy Booth before, so that was a first opportunity. But yeah, I just wanted to touch on what you said, PB. I thought all those were really strong points, strong enough for me to write down and take notes. So yeah, appreciate that. And I'll just throw this out there. PB did want to throw a blunts and brunch, and while I think that would have been amazing, we really didn't know the layout of where we were staying, and some of us at the Hidden Valley Ranch want to stay in Marfa because it is a 30-minute drive, so you do lose going back and forth 3 times. You do lose 3 hours, 30 minutes there, 30 minutes back in total. which is important, but it's also a nice respite where we were. So I think next year we're going to rent the same place. Some of us, like myself, Mike Nash, Paper Buddha, want to return to the ranch. And I think we can properly do a Blunts and Brunch there next year now that we know there's not necessarily a guard watching who comes in and who comes out. So that'll be nice. But we'll also have some people in town where we'll have a little crash pad in town. Some people wanted to stay closer, but yeah, PB, man, I think you're right, man. Doing some more quality events, maybe fewer, but more quality. Yours are always quality. But yeah, I think making them more of a spectacle and something like a must attend event, because there's only so many of them, is a good look, a good business move too. So yeah, I appreciate what you had to offer there.
Yeah, thanks, man. And for the audience, for the guys that the people that don't know, um, that's like the front lines of kind of what's going on with the border in America. And so you're right there. Like we had to go through border patrol checkpoints constantly. You feel the police state very much down there. But I mean, it's kind of off in the periphery, but you're aware that you're there, right? So when Hard Art says like the not knowing about the guard, like that's what we mean. That there's actually like checkpoints on the road where they pull you over. That like, do you have weed? You know, are you an American citizen? Like all of that kind of shit. Because it's still Texas, right? It's probably um, it's lagging on all of those kind of social justice issues that maybe other states have already tackled, legal weed and stuff like that. So just know in the next couple of years that will all soften up, you know. But right now it's a little sketchy down there. Even you know, you guys know me. I'm like, oh shit, look at all these fucking cops everywhere. You know, it was a bit overwhelming to be that close to all the cops. Uh, Again, you know, that's going to get better, but really it's so far out in the middle of nowhere that we had to do a little bit of scouting. I've got a really close friend of mine who goes down there and throws parties all the time, like 6 or 7 times a year in Marfa. And so he kind of prepared me for it, but he even said like, bro, you just have to go down there. There's no way I can explain to you what I mean. And so now that I've been down there and scouted it all and we got the lay of the land, yeah, an amazing place. Like definitely we can be your Sherpa.
Yo.
Yo.
Hey.
Yo, what's up?
What's up? Hey, everybody. Sorry, thanks for letting me join. Love hearing you guys. Loved seeing you. Just jumping in there, I'll start on the negative, move to the positive. I saw the cops hassling PB, and I was fucking just watching, couldn't do anything. I mean, for me, the police presence, not just on the border, I now fly. One thing that's nicer I'd recommend is fly from Midland, not El Paso, because El Paso, you're near Juarez and you're within 50 miles of the Mexican border. If you fly from Midland, it's nice drives through buttes, and less through, there's no like police setup. In Marfa itself, if you look like me and Paper Buddha, like, I'm not gonna lie, it stressed me out. You know, this is my second year. And if you go 2 miles over the limit, I literally, anyone who I knew there, almost everyone was pulled over if you go do anything. Like every single person I drove with. So that part I don't like. But having said that, so let's start with that. I just want to echo first. I want to say how great this group was. You know, Vasia, all these people, you know, DeSalter. We all met. Everyone I'm seeing these first lines, except Steve Miller, who dodged me because he hates me. Um, just kidding, buddy. Was so great to hang out in person. You guys were everywhere and a big part of everything. And yeah, super helpful everywhere I turned. You guys were helping people. And, you know, I thought that was super cool. And you guys were really supportive of the artists. And so I just want to give you a big shout out. Marfa itself, you know, I complain a lot about the police and the drive there, but I will tell you it's a unique and magical experience because in most of the other conferences, you're in a huge city, so people can, you know, fuck off basically. Here, everywhere you turn, you're seeing friends, and I had such a wonderful experience, and love seeing all of you, love seeing the art, and I think, you know, I think, look, a lot of us, you know, many on this call have been around longer than me. I've been around since 21 and down only. It was a real joy to see artists I'd known and worked with for years thriving. You talked about Jeremy. Jeremy and I go way, way back, even before he was doing Western art. You know, the White Walls team, Blondie. I, you know, drove in and hung with Blondie in Dallas and drove in from San Antonio with her. The success of Glitch, Marfa, and Joe Piece's auctions today doing 373 ETH, which is pretty cool. Um, Super cool installations like Clown Vamp. I think that will, I helped assemble the glory hole for the Beef Brothos last year, which is sort of cool. I feel like the Clown Vamp event was kind of like those things are cool. Yeah, so overall, amazing, wonderful time. And I think, looking at the people on this call, I think Marfa was historically like generative in art, in art blocks. I think the merging of the worlds and what I'd call like this group and our group here sort of being everywhere. Like everywhere I turned, it was people like we knew, and it was a really cool thing. I think it says a lot about where the space is. So sorry to talk so long, but I just love you guys and wanted to contribute and support.
No, not at all. Thank you for joining, and it was awesome finally getting to meet in person. And you're totally right. It was a lot of fun just being able to run anywhere throughout the town and running into people you knew and new faces. And I think it definitely, you touched upon actually Clown Vamp. And one of the things I wanted to mention as we kind of hit over the hour mark, outside of just, how many different partners participated this year and bringing the communities together, another kind of key takeaway I just really from a production standpoint wanted to touch on is how memorable some of the experiences were. So one thing I pay attention to from that production lens is, you want to take into consideration creating something that people aren't going to forget. Like this is a large event. There are a lot of things going on. And so whenever you activate, you really want to ask yourself, like, how can I make this exhibition or activation memorable? How can I make sure that I stand out from the crowd, that people walk away from this long weekend remembering my event or my activation amongst all the noise? And there was a lot of super well executed activations that I was really impressed by. I mean, Dave had his drive lap 2 at Glitch Gallery, and they shut down the block. They brought in a bunch
Yeah,
of,
sorry, I should have mentioned that. That was a great one too. They had cars that they were
yeah, it was
selling.
sick. Go
I think
ahead.
Benny sold a few cars. No, go ahead. Sorry, I feel bad. Go ahead.
No, don't feel bad, please. I talk too much, so feel free to jump in whenever. But yeah, they shut down the block. They had an actual ad in the local newspaper asking the people of Marfa and the neighboring towns to bring their cars in, like text us a picture, and we'll consider to see if you're, approved to bring your car in. And yeah, it was awesome. They essentially brought to life, and I love the marketing Dave's been doing on Drive in general. So having that type of activation, they had some barbecue. They had, I think, just chalk and games for people to play. I saw artists picking up chalk and kind of starting to collaborate on the street together. Like it was a very cool, like laid back vibe. A lot of people gathered together, and again, that's something that's like the unforgettable type of activation. Clown Vamp obviously had the junk machine, and he had a lot going on as well. It was like pressing a button and it live prints you some AI generated, I believe, artwork, and everyone got to take one and walk away with it. Joe, obviously,
Well, no.
go
Yeah,
ahead.
he had a machine that he's going to tour with.
Okay,
So he's going
cool.
to take that. It's going to be a traveling show. It was in a church, and it was based around like 80s marketing campaign. So like, and it was what I call, I know there's a term for it. It's slipping my mind, but AI art that's like clearly AI, but cool as a result, where you like use the sort of distortion. And so the themes were around like all these like there was one character who wasn't white, but like it was all these like 80s like super glorified white, like roided out, pink, everything pink. You press a junk machine, out comes a print. I think for the mint was reasonably higher price. It was like 0.08. And I think on the prints, you're right. You could press a button and take one. The mint sold out and has done super well. So yeah, sorry, Vasia, go ahead.
No, thanks for jumping in, because honestly, there's a lot of the details that I'm not as familiar. I can't believe I missed things. Like even in a small town, we talk about how small this is, but I still missed people. I still missed things. So by all means, feel free to jump in. Milton,
Yeah,
I know I see. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, sorry, go ahead. I was gonna say, and I think actually what was different this year than last year, and I'm sure other people have better perspectives, but for those who don't know, like Marva's small, and there's like the Art Blocks building across the street is Glitch, and about a block away is the Art Blocks house. last year, almost everything revolved around that little area. What was different this year is Blondie and White Walls stepped up, and there was a ton of artists featured. And so, relative to the prior events, I'd say like the White Walls and then Dave's thing and Clown Vamp and a variety of these things. It was much more spread out, especially if you were coming in like you guys from far away, where like you had to move a lot of people and account for all this. And so I think that was a very different feature that was bullish, but a lot more artists got time and space here than last year. I felt like I was mostly like at Glitch Marfa or Art Blocks or at somebody's house. So that was definitely like not unusual, Vasia. I think it was I missed a ton of stuff and I didn't like go home the whole day till night and you still end up it was sort of impossible.
Yeah, I can touch on that too. Just I think we've been praising the whole day. I think like a couple constructive criticism points would be, and I don't know how you pull it off because there's these so-called headliners. Nice Day Jewels had one, for example. I believe there was another event going on. I know for a fact that I missed Monster Mike because I was at
Jules
milking Una.
rules, Monster Mike rules too. Yeah.
I know, right? But like to your point, I guess it was impossible to see absolutely everything despite the intimate nature of that city and the short walks in between venues. But sounds like it was a little more spread out than last year. So it would be cool, and it's probably an impossible task, but maybe to see some coordination among some of the bigger ones, like Una's milking and her skinning was her act three. That was the penultimate act there, and I had to miss that Monster Mike exhibition because I was at Una, and Una's was great, and I wouldn't have missed it for the world. But the only thing I could do to support Monster Mike was buy a shirt. And now if somebody asked me about it, they're like, "Oh, that was amazing, wasn't it?" I'm like, "Yeah, actually, I wasn't there, but I had to hear through third parties how cool it was." So that would be maybe one of my constructive criticisms. Maybe just have some of the people linked together, and maybe there's one quote unquote kind of headliner, almost like if you were at a music tour and you saw the lineup, you could kind of agree mutually what the quote unquote headliner was for each night, and everybody could pick spots accordingly. Maybe that's a vote, a community vote. I don't know how you pick it, but just thinking off the cuff. I don't know. You got any thoughts on that, OG or Vasia?
Yeah, hard art. I think actually like sorry, Paper, did you want to speak? I didn't want to.
I was going to jump in and comment, but go ahead. I'll go after you.
I was gonna say, look, I think it's actually the sign of a vibrant event to have that optionality. I think like in a way that lets each person cultivate the experience for them and whatever the universe like delivers. I just sort of roll with it. And so I get what you're saying. And I think like, at other conferences, you're right, like for the group, maybe if the overlap wasn't so hard. But I do think I get what you're saying, but I do think like it's cool to actually miss stuff because then the next year you're sort of like, okay, more deliberate. And I think this was the first year, like I said. Well, I've only been twice, so but I think it was more generative before that. How many years has it been going for? The
Yeah, for
so
Yeah, 4
yeah,
years.
yeah. So I think they'll probably get a better balance. I also think getting around, like I should have rented a bike or something, because that what ends up happening is you don't want to drink and drive. And if things are far apart, you literally can't get there. So I think having more flexibility to move around would probably be a better solution for me. Being close enough if you stay and be able to move around.
Did you hear what Jules did for his collectors in that regard? He got
Yeah, he
them
got
electric
me.
bikes.
Yeah, he got. I mean, I'm a flower collector. It was super cool, and I stupidly said no, like a fucking idiot.
I mean, Marfa isn't that. Oh, hey, y'all.
Why?
I'm Ed. If you
You were
don't know me.
scared to ride it?
Ed, what's up, motherfucker? Why didn't you come this year? Last year we had our moment, baby. I was
We did. We did
missing
have a
it.
moment
I
last
was
year.
I was celebrating where we were hanging out.
I didn't go because I thought it was gonna be cold, and also, yeah, I enjoyed Marfa so much the year before, that I was like, I can only go if I'm doing something, and I was supposed to do something, but it fell through. So, or at least I was trying to, it fell through. So maybe next year we'll see. Um, in regards though, like there's a lot of things that I came that it has come about. I'm sorry. I'm also, I guess, I wasn't there for 2024, but I was there in 2023. And some things that you guys have said, I didn't experience. So I'm like surprised. Like you guys are talking about cops. I didn't see no. I saw like cops like once or twice. It wasn't even like that serious
Bro,
when like
it
last
was
year.
fucking insane, dude. I'm
So
telling
that's
you, and it
actually
was
crazy.
worse. It was like they were basically like on. It was like every driving everywhere on every side, all over. It stressed me out.
Wow, that wasn't at least I didn't experience that like last year. I was like all over the place last year, and I didn't I didn't experience I didn't really see anybody like when it was like nighttime. But I also understand that there was way more people that went this year than last year. Um, I think what I do love is that I was told that you guys use more venues in Marfa. I think that was like really dope. I think that's the
Way
goal.
more, bro.
Yeah, like last year it was like really constricted to like the Glitch Museum. So and Marfa isn't that big. Like we definitely went out like last year. We were like walking all over. I think I went with Tony. We went to like this mountain that had like a house on. It was actually a lot. Um and it was at night and it was scary, but it was really cool. But and I guess it's not that bad to me because I like to walk a lot, so I'm for the I hope it stays with yeah, let's keep things all over because Marfa is not that big. It's really like if you can do New York and it's NFT NYC, you can definitely do a Marfa. Um, and I think it's really necessary. I think it's dope to just have. It kind of feels like and I don't know how long it's gonna last, but it feels like kind of like literally like the Web3 community has taken over um, this like a town, and people do live there, so you have to be respectful. But it is this it is this moment there, and I'm like, oh wow, this is really cool. And everyone you see, you definitely know they're there for Art Blocks, and you can make friends from there. You can definitely have conversations. It's why a lot of artists like to go, even if you're not and I think I also love that too because the art blocks, it's I mean its focus solely is on generative art, but you're slowly seeing more different mediums being a part of it. And I think when I went, it was Die with Most Likes had like he did his own, and then I think I would say he was probably one of the artists that onboarded more mediums into the art blocks into this art blocks that we have here. But I want to see more of that. I think overall it's a cultural it could be a cultural staple for the space, and it really is about the art. I think that is the most important thing out of all the conferences. Why Marfa I think stands out the most is because people are literally there because of the art. You're only gonna go there. You're only gonna take this plane and then drive X amount of miles to get to this small, like almost close to feels like abandoned town like for a reason, right? And you have to have the reason, and it's literally because of the art. And when you see that, you're like, wow, yeah, these people care about that. And I think that's why it's so positive, and it lets you know it. I kind of wish I went again because Martha last year let me know, okay, cool. I can still be in this space, right? Because I think a lot of times, and I went during the bear, so it was it was like, I guess it's probably I don't know what you want to call it, if it's still the bear or not, whatever. But like last year was like we were on our last, it was hard, and so and so you're like, okay, we're just gonna do it, we're gonna go, and I think why I love it is because you're literally around artists, collectors, people who just love art and they're there. They're there having conversations, showing that, and it's a really good time. And I know that's kind of sounds a little cliche, and I know as Paper Root has probably said, like you kind of have to be there to like see that, but you really do have to be there to see that because the vibes are totally different, and it's you do appreciate it. You just appreciate seeing other people because it's not only about only seeing like other artists, but just it's seeing other artists also in Web3 who have been out here in the trenches with you. And like I'm glad that you're still here. I'm glad that you're still trying to make it out here. It's a lot, and just being around that is I would say it encourages you to keep going, and and also helps with networking and stuff like that, meeting people that you probably haven't met before or only saw in spaces. All these things are really important. And so I tell people all the time, if you aren't going to be able to probably make it to Art Basel, definitely try to go to like a Marfa if you're an artist or someone that really cares about art. Okay, that is it. I'm sorry about that, y'all.
Amazing, Ed. I love you, man. I wish you would have been there. Um, You know, one thing for everyone to keep in mind as this grows, we look at other events. You know, we've all been, most of us have been around for a while, and we can look at these other events and see the kind of air quote commercialization of it. Um, that's happening here at Art Blocks, at this conference, right? This is going to continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger, because it's such a vibe. And so, just something to keep in mind. I usually, again, throw my own events, or I'm being shown somewhere or exhibited. That didn't happen at Art Blocks weekend, other than me in Marfa, other than me just kind of handing out some prints. And that was amazing. It was really good. It was really okay for me to not have my own event. I actually ended up probably doing way more valuable networking, and was more present for my conversations than I would have been if I had my own show and I was worried about all of that stuff. So I do want to just like empower other artists to, take a step back, dude. You don't have to be the star of every show. The idea that like every single artist would have a single show at Marfa is fucking ridiculous. Like, get out of here with that. Even with the people that we
Don't throw
had.
shade at me, Paige. Okay, I just wanted to have something.
And cut it out. I think one thing that we could do, and this is what attracted me to Marfa originally. I collect a lot of generative art, specifically FX Hash and Tezos, and so I've always been like adjacent to generative art as a collector. And the thing that really I love is that this is a combined show that is showing a genre. Right before this week, it was like you could go to the Art Blocks house and you could see a whole bunch of different generative artists. How cool would it be if we had a gallery for the collage artists, a gallery for the photographers, a gallery for the musicians, and you could literally, like Hard Art was talking about, go to the White Walls Gallery, see some of the local talent opening, see some of the emerging artists, see a blue chip, and we're all working together and representing a genre of art like the generative art people do. I think that's really cool. It allows us to get a little bit more of a showing per gallery without like overdoing it and saturating and kind of ruining what's special about Marfa. If all of a sudden there were 7 events at the same time during the event, like all the time, bro, miss me with it. I wouldn't even go. It's like that's so much craziness, right? That's like so much. Everybody's running around all FOMO'd, and then that's not the vibe. The vibe is like a slow walk to the next place while you're talking to a new friend. You know.
I'm glad you brought it up, the like potential of it growing and the direction it shouldn't grow in, PB, because it's a huge, very important factor. Like it would lose its magic. And, Milton mentioned some events overlapping and having FOMO. And I kind of agree with OG on that end. Like you have to find that right balance of you as like from the production point of view, you want the FOMO factor. You want people to be thirsty. Like it's okay to be missing some of these things. And that's something that you want the audience to feel. But like you also mentioned, there's that fine line of it can't be 7 events people are missing because, yeah, then it is going to upset people. And I also feel like maybe the beauty of Marfa being so small, like literally the carrying capacity, essentially, like it physically like can't hold more than a certain amount of people. Like the town itself cannot. We ran out of accommodations. That's why we went and stayed 30 minutes out. That wasn't necessarily a choice that we had. So I think it naturally kind of restricts how many people can come, but also like the intimacy of these events. Like we got to go to White Walls or Glitch Gallery and all these, different locations. It wasn't hundreds of people where it's like you have to be screaming at each other. It was a good enough crowd where you could really do what you said, like network and really have those conversations. And I hope that it doesn't get too commercialized because I definitely think it would lose its magic. And right now, I think it had that nice balance of keeping it about the community and its Web3 ethos. I do see a couple of people requesting, and there are more people on stage. So feel free, guys, to jump in. Go ahead, Ed.
Oh, I was gonna say, I don't know if it can get commercial. Well, I I feel like the commercialization of art blocks would be something really difficult to do. But maybe that's me overreaching. I don't like, or like that's hopium speaking. But like I don't know if that's possible just yet. Like I don't think it's possible. Like I don't know. I think it's like it has to be, and I love it. It's like very underground, and but it's like also not underground. It's just really weird because we're like all here, and then you go to Marfa and you're like, oh, it's just us. What we about to get into? and it's like literally just walk to the event and you walk to another event, you see someone that you like or haven't met, or you just and they're walking there like let's walk together, and and then from there you just you create relationships or network that way. But I think for me, I'm just like really my goal is to really like see um other mediums out there in any type of way, just being out there to just showcase like the culture of the space in a positive light. I think CT can only do so much, and we do kind of get caught up in the noise, and our Basel, which is also really dope, and it's I would say it's really huge when it comes to art. We can kind of get caught up in, or not even, it can be a little bit too loud, and crypto art can kind of sometimes find its way not at the forefront. And I feel like this place is where it does, it's really all about art there, which I guess we don't, I think a lot of times artists are always sharing, which, that's a good thing. That's fine. But this is seriously only about that. And I think that's important. And so I don't know if it can get. I wonder if it does get commercialized. I really do want to. Like, I wonder how that would look. I don't think it's possible. Like possible in the sense of like it losing its importance. Like I feel like our blogs, just the way how it is, and it's the how it's been rooted is just so like um it's very like authentic. I don't know how it can be commercialized where we're like, oh, we can't go because it's it's too elitist or whatever. But I don't know. People always find ways to you know prove me wrong all the time. I hope they don't prove me
Well,
wrong.
no, I'm with you. I do think the beauty of Marfa itself, again, small town vibe, like there weren't big brands. It's not corporate-y. Like I do think that's also, again, part of that magic. So I'm with you. Hopefully it doesn't end up getting to that scale of it being too commercialized in a way. And I do think that, again, the people that are building this would lean into what you're saying about keeping it about the community. I did actually super quick because I saw him jump on and want to shout him out. Jeremy Booth is in the house. Jeremy, I don't know if you have a second, you want to jump on stage, but we were talking about obviously what you did in Marfa with Maker's Place and just how amazing it all came together. Wanted to just congratulate you, obviously, on those sales. But yeah, wanted to invite you up if you have a second.
Get up here, dude. This is my favorite new artist, guys. If you don't know Jeremy Booth, he made such a huge impact on me at Art Basel Miami. Just a really wholesome dude with amazing art. I'm glad I got some prints that are signed. They're going to get framed and put up in my studio. Man, what a dude. If you guys haven't followed him, follow him.
Paper, he's been around. I've Jeremy and I met in mid 22. We had a
Hello, can you
funny.
hear me?
Hey,
Hey,
buddy.
what's going on?
Hey, how's everyone doing?
Doing
What's up,
good.
motherfucker?
What's your
Good, doing well, doing well. I saw that all my friends were in a space collectively, so I thought I'd see what was going on. So appreciate you all bringing me up. Happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks for joining. I mean, we're just basically recapping Marfa, talking about a couple of the different things that stood out. And obviously, we're talking about what you were showcasing and doing. I know Milton collected the full set, my co host up here, he collected the full set of postcards you were giving out. And I know you were going around signing them as well. So it was just awesome getting to meet you and having the opportunity to see what Maker's Place also did regarding the production. I think it's definitely in the right direction of what we need to start seeing marketplaces do. So just thank you again for the contribution and being a part of everyone's experience this year.
Yeah, absolutely. It's man, it is. I'm so impressed by this collaboration that I've been working through with Maker's Place. I've worked with many marketplaces over my few years that I've been here, and I've had great experiences with them all. But man, nothing to this caliber. I mean, they have invested time and resources and finance and creativity, and to really kind of pull this off. And we've got more coming that we're going to work through in 2025 that I'm really excited about. So yeah, shout out to them. Shout out to White Walls, of course. I also couldn't have done this without them as well. So, and Infinite Objects for letting us show off their new displays that haven't come to market yet. They're beautiful. Can't wait to see that it hit the market. So it's beautiful and great to see all my friends, old and new, and all the support. I'm so thankful. Yeah, just happy to be on this journey with all you wonderful people.
You know, what you guys did over there, I think, is really important for the entire Marfa event. In that, up until this point, it was all generative, and you and Maker's Place and White Walls like really came out and said, "Yo, fine art is here too." And it wasn't an island of an artist by themselves. It wasn't a platform by themselves. You guys posseed up as a team all the way through, and you know we're best in class, man. It was really amazing. So thank you.
Yeah, I really honestly, you mentioned the infinite objects as well, Jeremy. I mean, Devin jumped on before and was talking about it. I definitely agree. The execution was killer, and just in general, looking forward to just seeing these two communities come closer together. And what a better way to do it than the way that you guys executed. So it's awesome seeing, like I said, Maker's Place kind of getting involved. I know they also had that super professionally filmed and edited video behind the scenes, and they had it showcased at the event. I mean, I think the storytelling component, it's something I constantly talk about and how important it is. So just seeing again this in-person event, and all the different components that made it come to life, it's extremely important. So Milton, I see hands up. Go ahead. Feel free to jump in.
Yeah, I wanted to touch base with Jeremy. And again, we have not focused on the commercial side of this, but obviously that's an important element to our space to make sure that we survive. And I was curious because Jeremy had commercial success there. I understand that 3 of the 4 pieces have been collected that were available. And I wanted to know whether that was a result of having the IRL presence there and the collector actually came in to see it before they bought it, or if it
Oh,
was
that's
the efforts of, Maker's Place who did all the good content around it. I was just curious for people in the room that want to replicate. I keep calling this a muse. I feel like Marfa was a muse in so many good ways, as a good example of what to do. I was just curious for artists how they might look at this and maybe try to replicate this in some
Yeah,
fashion.
that is a really great question. Yeah, to answer your question, I think it wouldn't have happened without the event. I can say that there was one collector who follows me and we interact online. So I feel like potentially that may have happened without the presentation, but unlikely maybe because I feel like it all collectively kind of came together. I know that another couple that is lightly in the space. They I think they were at like in Paris or one of the other NFT events. I think they're also trad collectors, and they just kind of randomly showed up. They saw one of my pieces and they were like, "I want the piece. I want the infinite objects display to go with it. We have a perfect place in our home in Telluride. Let's go." And so I don't think that purchase would have occurred without exhibiting in Marfa. The other piece that sold was from another collector and the CEO of Maker's Place himself. So he personally sat with that piece, being there and supporting uh, Maker's Place. But also, I think him and I got to have like really personable conversations and stuff, and so he had the intent of wanting to purchase it and kind of waited, and then he felt like enough time had passed and then he decided to go for it. And so yeah, so I think to answer your question, I think it was imperative and important to have these exhibitions IRL. And I think the presentation is important. I think for the artist to be there and kind of to represent their work, who they are as a person, personally, I think is important. And so you kind of capture all of that in that sort of setting, and it becomes more personable. Most of the time, our interactions are digital and are online, which is all great, and it's really why we're here. But I think it enriches and deepens our connection when we're able to do that in person, and so I think that's a result of what we saw in Marfa.
Yeah, definitely a resonating theme. We've had so many conversations in the past regarding collectors' perspective, and they definitely say once they meet an artist in person and really develop that relationship, I think it's a lot easier to pull that trigger. So awesome to see the show become so successful and obviously have such an impact on the sellout. That's awesome.
I think artists I talk to all day, talk to artists. Jeremy and I used to talk daily for months. Like, I mean, we were super tight, but years ago. And I think, like, the more as an artist you connect as a person with your collectors, even if you can't make the events, connect and not in a way of like just genuine, like, connection. I think where it's not like connect with an intent to take. I think so much comes from that. Like some guy years ago named the birds, he's gone now, but called NFTs new friend technology. I basically don't want to collect art anymore from anyone I don't like personally like and feel connected to. And so I think that's something that everyone who's an artist, like I look on this call and like I love paper. I'm just like scrolling the names and all these people here, every row. Yeah, I see is like people, I'm looking at Dave there. Dave's the best at this crew. And there's so many great people on here who do this. So even if you can't meet in person, because that's sometimes a hurdle, reach out and become personal because those relationships are everything.
I want to speak on that too. I'm going to jump in and Vasia, if you want to invite Dave up, I'm about to sing his praises. So this will be a good tee up.
Yeah, Dave's a legend.
For
Pretty
sure,
sure
a
he's a
legend.
speaker already. I think, Dave, are you GM? Are
No,
you able
he's
to
a
speak?
listener. It looks like he's only a listener.
Oh.
No,
Oh,
I'm
wow.
here.
What's up, Dave?
Hey.
I'm over here blushing, so carry on.
Hey, I wanted to quickly intro you something that I thought was excellent. I mean, I could go on and on about the drive, but we talked about the fine art component. Great people like Jeremy Booth being a part of it this year and really expanding the boundaries of what Art Blocks once was. I wanted to give you some love, Dave, because something that I think went a little overlooked, but I definitely engaged with it was bringing in the generative side to your Drive collection. So with Story Protocol, you could interact with the Drive collection in a brand new way that had never been done before. And I was absolutely floored when I did it. So I went over there. I was trying to think what car I wanted to do. I was having a good talk with a new person that I met there from the Manifold team. And we were kind of talking about our first cars. And hers was an Isuzu Rodeo. Mine was a 1993 a Range Rover County LWB, the long wheelbase, right? So I put that in. I wanted it in front of an Atlanta trap because I'm from Atlanta. And we hit the button. Emma was there working her magic, typing in the prompt. And I did not specify a color. My fucking exact color of green came out of the prompt. And it was to a T what my first car was in my hometown in front of a little bit of a shady Atlanta trap with some graffiti behind it. So it even knew what a trap was. So that was mind blowing. I just thought it was a nice bridge that you built between sort of the generative side and your collection. So kudos to you on that. And man, again, I could sing your praises about Drive all day. We've been doing that the whole space. But yeah, welcome to the stage. I'm curious because you've been for a few years now, I believe, at least last year, I think you were there. Curious to hear on some of the differences that you saw between this year and last year, riff on some of the epic times that we had on Drive and whatever else comes to mind.
Oh, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate all those kind words, and yes, really grateful for the support of Story, who kind of enabled that whole gallery experience for Drive. I guess the first thing I'll say just about Drive, and then I'll speak more about the general experience of Marfa and why it's so special. Drive, like, is my attempt to kind of show and explain how tokens can be a scaffolding for world building. Like, these are little seeds that you're planting, and you can really grow things on top of them that aren't on chain but are part of the story. So like the on chain project, like the minted tokens, are this root layer, and then on top of that you can tell stories and you can build relationships, like OG said, and you can make commercials, and you can do we had an actual car show with cars for sale, and that was all emergent behavior from the community that we didn't even really plan for. We definitely did a call to action for the locals to bring some classic cars, but we had 15 people show up and actually like would sell cars, like it was a real dealership. And so if you just put things on chain, you don't even have to have your full plan at the time you mint something, but think about those tokens as little anchors for anything that you want to do in the future. And some of the ideas that you can do with that might not have even occurred to you yet, or might not even be possible yet. But as this technology evolves, there's an infinite landscape of possibility. And if you have that root layer laid down and held by a community of people that are willing to help you build that world, then the possibilities are truly limitless. So that's kind of a little bit on Drive, and I'm just so grateful and happy and proud of my team, and so grateful to Glitch and Art Blocks and Story and everyone who showed up and everyone who collected that project. Real quickly on Marfa, Marfa is by far my favorite event. I could only really choose. I had to choose between Miami, Basel this year, and Marfa because I'm just have a lot going on and I'm working on some things, and I need to like take some time. That I would choose Marfa because Marfa's hard to get to. It's not, you can't just fly into Marfa. You have to fly in, you have to rent a car, you have to coordinate. There's very limited lodging. You really have to have a plan, and you have to have a deep intention to show up there. And what that does is it creates this kind of micro community of deeply passionate people who are all extremely all in on the future of digital art blockchain. And I mean, that's just, it gets stronger. That sensation gets stronger every year. This is my third year attending. It's my fourth year minting work in general. And my conviction after has never been stronger because I just saw all the people that were there and that were passionate. And I think my favorite part was, it was so many people's first year in Marfa, and to see them experience that kind of like, holy shit, this is the burning core of the people that are going to push the space forward. This is what it can look like when we strip away all the clubs and the massive protocol parties and all the fluff that comes around normal crypto conferences. Like, this is just the bare bones, deeply rooted community. And I think that exists because I want to give flowers where they're due to Eric Calderon, Snowfro. With a leader like that, I mean, it's inevitable that space will feel so welcoming and warm and encouraging for artists. So I guess I'm just excited about how many new people were there and how many of them will be back next year. I mean, I think everyone wants to go back next year because it was that special. And yeah, I just think like even a lot of the old guard that you'd expect to see there wasn't there. And kind of that space was filled by new passionate people. And just as a reminder to everybody started in this space, like, it's just how much you show up and how much, what kind of relationships you build with people. And it's not too late to be, have incredible success in this space because it's moving so fast and evolving so fast. So just want to encourage everybody to go if you get the chance. It's definitely worth the effort. And I won't miss a year ever, unless something crazy happens. But I really, really, really enjoyed the experience, and I think the best part was spending with all of you.
Dave, I just want to say one thing. In addition, it was amazing staying with you. Look, this industry, obviously there's people who started way earlier in 2017, 2018. But the bulk of quotes new people's, like 21 was the first big year. So if you come in later, we're still in the first few years. And so I think in the grand scheme of life, 10 or 15 years from now, it's still early. So everything you said was amazing too. Thanks.
Yeah,
Dave,
thanks, Dave. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, Dave, I actually think you are the reason why I made it to Marfa or started FOMOing last year. I saw you posting a bunch of pictures, and that's kind of where I started realizing, like, oh, this isn't just the Gen Art people. Like, there's more to it. So thank you for just, continuing to participate, and you crushed it. Really enjoyed your event, and just, we were talking before about activations and just in general, like, creating these experiences that people will not forget and are just memorable moments. And I think it's extremely important in these types of event weeks to have those things. And I know you did. I know Schiller and Fungible's on here as well, and I'll give him the mic in a sec. But I just wanted to really shout out how important that was and how well of a job you did executing. And I know the spaces were also being flipped constantly. So not an easy task. There was a lot of moving parts, but it's super flawless, seamless production from the outside. So congrats again on just an amazing show and an event. And, amazing to see where you continue to take the project. Fungible, I know you've had a hand up for a minute, so I'll hand you the mic. Thanks for waiting. And GM, nice seeing you post Marfa.
Yeah, no, thanks so much for having me, and really nice to see all of you that made it. Yeah, it was my second year going. After the first one, it was very clear that that was the new non-negotiable on the trip or event list. And yeah, Dave's show was insane. It was just a beautiful, holistically designed experience. And there was a number that, I just was blown away by. Someone in the audience that I don't think I've heard mentioned, I came a little bit late, was 113 show. There shouldn't be any photos or videos. It was not allowed. And I really loved that aspect of it. Um, and it was just such a powerful experience to all those that went. I felt like I had been teleported into the Math Castle server, or maybe just 113's brain somehow. And yeah, I just was really impressed with how the Glitch team has continued to evolve to support all types of art, and become a real institution, doing some of the best work in the space when it comes to championing for, and creating, equitable systems of discovery and sales for artists, and having just a really thoughtful curation. And I think one thing to call it as well is that, shout out Snowfro. Like, for those that don't know Snowfro's story, you guys have probably covered it already, but just someone who built and created things purely for joy, not to make money, but to leave a mark on this world, on, the Ethereum blockchain, and to support all those like him. He got into punks early, flipped some zombies into starting up art blocks, and the essence of who he is attracted an incredible host of investors that were like, hey, we have to give you money. Like, you're not raising, but you need to, because you're a very important figure here. And that has just gone so far. I think so many of us in crypto and Web3 are, tinkering on things, or we have companies or whatever products that we've created. And I think just that was one of the biggest reminders of the value of pure and authentic intent, in what you're trying to create, and doing it for the right reasons. Um, yeah, if you didn't make it this year, definitely go the next time. Crypto itself is one of the most astounding sorting filters for humans. When you look at those who've entered early, you just share so much with them. You may not be the same person, you may not go to the same Milady raves, but there are components of your philosophies, of your passions, that you will find familiar within everyone you meet. And I think Marfa, as an extension of that, or a downstream effect of that, is probably one of the best sorting filters for everyone within Web3, even those that are sponsoring. From the White Walls team, who, it was only last year at Marfa that Devin and Dirkle hit me up and were like, hey, I need to chat to you and Buna about an idea we've been working on, that's turned into White Walls. To the Makers Place team, and the story team facilitating just some amazing exhibitions and the direct sales of things, to the Glitch team, just stepping up every single year. And of course, all of the artists that took part. Yeah, it's really, really incredible. Yeah, highly recommend going. I honestly thought, even though I'm a, pretty big or sincere generative art fan, I was like last year worrying that I was going to be surrounded by nerds talking about algorithms, and that that I'm sure that was happening, but it was not the crux of any of the experiences. And it was just this real latent passion and excitement to gather and be together that was at the forefront of everything I saw. I didn't make it to Una's show, but I heard that it was an unforgettable experience. Luckily, bumped into Una a number of times, and I went to Clown Vamp's show, which was amazing. And I'm pretty sure Clown Vamp put that on entirely by himself. I might be mistaken, but from what I gathered, yeah, Clown Vamp sorted all of it out, and sold out his latest collection in the process. But yeah, just had an amazing time. really, really excited to go again. And yeah, I don't know, just appreciate you giving me a moment to yap about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for taking the time. And it was awesome finally meeting you in person. I mean, thank you for highlighting Snowfro. I really, obviously, none of us would be talking about Marfa had it not been for him and his team and what they've been building. And what you mentioned about him being just so genuine, it's so obvious when you meet him in person. That energy is just radiating off of him. And he literally just smiling the entire time, taking the time to speak to people and have full blown conversations, even though he's technically the host and has a bunch of things going on and needs to be running around, but he even stopped and took photos with people when they've revealed the whole marble squiggle and all of that. So yeah, it's just amazing seeing people like that winning and being successful, and it makes sense. People want to invest in people like that. So thank you again for just taking a second to really highlight him. Paper Boot, I know I saw your hand up first, so I'll give you the mic. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on something just about how special this is, and sometimes people not making it and whatnot. Um, First of all, like there's a sense of humor among the people that are going to Marfa that I think is not present with other events, right? Dave and the whole drive show and just like the overdoing of the car salesman shit is so fucking funny. The fact that Benny places a full page ad, the fact that there's a full page ad for Snowfro's birthday, which it wasn't. One of my favorite things actually was Die with the Most Likes and his special at the little taco store. It was the Die with the Most Likes. He wasn't there. For people that don't know, Die with the Most Likes was not there. However, he had a whole prank where there was like $100 dish, the Die with the Most Likes special that came with 2 pounds of ground beef, gold flakes, sparklers. Creed was playing in the background. This shit is hilarious. And so he couldn't make it, but he still managed to have impact and presence at the show. And that's something that I took away. Like, hey, maybe I don't actually have to go to every single show, but I could have some sort of an impact, still be part of the community, and utilize like that humor that we don't usually see. And other conferences, we're all taking ourselves so seriously, right? But the reality is, we're all really fucking funny people. And so when you put us together, man, the practical jokes and shit were out of control fun. So uh, know that like there's ways for you to participate without actually physically going. And I found that to be really funny, and I did get great video of people eating the 2 pound special, so it was pretty great.
Damn, I had no idea about the 2 pound special. Thanks for mentioning that. And you're right, it's just about having fun. I think that you're right. We take ourselves too seriously sometimes. And I love that you highlighted that. Milton, I know I saw hands up, so I'll give it to you and then we'll swing it to Rebecca.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's what my ex-girlfriend used to call me, is the 2 pound special. But I did see a lot of funny shit going down, and I fear for Fungible, because damn, he don't miss a good old rootin' tootin' good time with Una down there milking. She was petting, she was milking, she was skinning. Lots of things that can't be filmed or talked about until I talk to my lawyer. See, but she's over there from that land over yonder where they eat fish and chips. But she came down to chew on some barbecue with us, and she was in character the whole damn time. And I do want to have her up. Got to go in order now because ladies first, Rebecca is here with us, and we were talking nice things about her little video mashups. But I do want to have Una up to talk too, because she can sport a pretty good country accent her damn self. But Rebecca, come on up to the stage first, and we'll bring up on Una.
You're gonna start a trend, like all of us are just gonna want to speak in a country accent. I can't shake it now. Damn you, hard art. Hey everybody. Yeah, sorry I joined a little late. I was just actually finishing up an email to the Marfa Chamber of Commerce to pitch them a donation to the city for a large scale pop-up book, like sculpture, permanent sculpture, for hopefully that the Marfa city of Marfa will go for. But that's one thing that I noticed, like around town, like even outside of all the events, like you go down Highway 90 and you see the Prada Marfa, and you see John Cerny's giant murals of James Dean and Elizabeth Taylor and the shipping containers. Like there's so much to this little town, this little artistic gem in West Texas that goes beyond like just Art Blocks weekend that makes this city so special. And I think to resonate or to go off of what Paper Buddha was saying about having a presence there without actually being there, I think that people listening could probably benefit from contacting the Marfa Chamber of Commerce and seeing what kind of art we can donate to the city and have make our presence known in that our little artistic gem beyond just Art Blocks weekend. I think that that's pretty important. Looking into the Marfa Invitational as well, they have calls for public sculptures as well. But enough of that. I just wanted to say that rooming with all y'all at the White House Ranch was a hoot and a holler, and holy hell, the sitcom that became out of that, oh my gosh, like having no power, no water the last day with 11 people full of that ranch, it was getting pretty rank, but it was sure fun as all hell let loose. I gotta say. And big props to everybody that came to the exhibition at White Walls on Friday. It was good to see a lot of you familiar faces and feel a lot of those warm hugs from everybody. It was a blur of a weekend, and all I gotta say is it was too short. We need to take it over for 2 weeks at least. Hell, even a month. But yeah, it was a hoot and a holler. So anybody who didn't get to go, you got to put it on your calendar for 2025.
Well, hey, too short. I've also been called that. But Rebecca, we appreciate you making that round trip. I know you done lost your credit card, you lost your ID to get there, but you made some roundabout ways. I think you was hitchhiking there through Highway 60 to come on in, and you did make it right in time for them moving pictures that you do, which is real nice. And those people were faceless, which is great because I can kind of put myself in their position. So we do appreciate you making it out and staying. And man, you made some nice food down at the ranch, some cornbread that I did fill my belly with. And you had a blackberry pie. And I must say that Snep said he don't put the blackberries on the cornbread for breakfast the next morning. And damn, that was fine. Mighty fine meal that I'm going to replicate here down on my ranch. So I appreciate you, Rebecca. And I did want to bring up Una, who started this whole country conversation to begin with. And she was my personal favorite for the skinning, which was her final act of three. But Una, welcome on down to the stage. How are you now?
Oh, darling, I'm still trying to get my tongue tied out of this twister. It done be killing me, I swear. I'm trying to talk all regular and back here by I can't remember nothing. So anyway, for those of y'all that don't know, my name's Muna. I was Marfa for Una only. Well, I said that backwards, as y'all can tell. My brain's still a bit dusty. I got milked. I'm mood and my skin. So baby, I'm just here for the ride. I will tell y'all, I had this real particular feeling when I was originally born at NFTMIC 2021, where there was like an electricity in the room that you could just feel when everyone was walking around. And that was the same feeling that I had at Marfa. Marfa. I can't not say Marfa like a text Marfa. That I had in Marfa. It was just so incredible, and you could tell that the people were motivated again, and everyone's obviously still a little shell shocked from just how hard everything was that we collectively endured. Shit got really rough and bad and hard and disgusting. Um, and now we got to go to Marfa and we got to laugh it off, baby. So I think we're doing all right. I'd like to personally thank anyone who came out and who mooed and who milked. My first time doing a generative artwork where I could, track people's heart rates and then mint that into an NFT. And I'm sitting here looking at the data, being like, "Who hard art? You were nervous before you went in there, boy." Yes, you were. And then I'm looking at it like, oh my God, these people are all so nervous. And then once they get in there, they start giggling their little butts off. So, I got some nice heart rates of nerves turning into giggles. And funny thing is, nerves and giggles look the same on a heart rate monitor, right? Your heart's pumping. You're nervous either way. So don't that show you that a lot of energy is actually a good thing? It's just a matter of how we're looking at it. And this time for Marfa, we're looking at it like everybody's heart's real full. Thank you for having me, Hard Art.
Hey, Miss Una. Well, if you compared and contrasted that one there over in Frenchtown in Paris Well, I was probably a little more nervous then, seeing my first pair of udders, or breasts, as you call them. So we'll have to see the difference of those two. But no, I must say your country accent has got me wondering if you really are British after all. So we're gonna have to test that theory. I did hear you say bum when you were supposed to say butt. So you got a little lesson to learn for next year when you put on the accent again. But I love your performance. I really did. I was just telling earlier before you jumped in that I missed Monster Mike's performance for you, so that's saying a lot. And I encourage anybody who hasn't seen her performance art to go do so because she's funny all the way down to the NDAs that you got to sign. There's some cheeky little jokes even on her writing there. So go check that out. I got to see you and Snowfro. I put it up on the Jumbotron here. It looks like Snowfro made it over, and that was one of the highlights of your event. So, yeah, and I do think that, like you said, this is a positive vibe, something that we haven't maybe seen in this world for a couple of years. And so everybody's said something similar to where this is an event that's brought back the love and warm and fuzzies. So good to see those return once again. But Una, congrats on all your success, and I congratulate you for doing not one but three different acts that we could all partake in over there. So good work, and thanks for the beer. Una, good to see you. MB's got his hand raised. What's going on, MB?
Now, why are you talking like a city boy? What is this here doing? I don't know what any of that's about. I just came up here to go hang with my Southerners. It's good to hear some familiar accents. I did not get to make it out to Marfa this year, but we had a celebratory deli ham. Earl, he put it on the smoker out in the backyard. It was a good old time. I'm looking forward to Basel, Miami. We're gonna get the smoker up and running one more time. So you make sure you bring your some grub and bring some sauce. But yeah, it's been great to see you all, and I'm happy you all got back safe. I have nothing else to say.
I'm dying. Okay, well, I'm gonna jump in with a New York accent. Sorry, not sorry. But thank you guys, Milton. I didn't know you were a Southern boy, bro. Very nice
All
country.
back on the ranches. That's where I grew up.
Yeah, you and Milton, I like it. Una, I can't believe, girl, that I have not yet had a chance to make it to one of the performances. I am so bummed that I missed it. But yeah, I have to definitely make my way over. I heard it was insane, and congratulations just on all the success. I love the fact that you didn't break character. Your girl was committed, and you delivered. Hope to see you soon. If not in Miami, hope to see you soon. I think we had one more. Milton, I don't even know how to do the noises on here. But yeah, one more time for Una. Hit it one more time, please.
Y'all, don't be sneaking my voice notes online.
I can't breathe.
There is a hand up. I will give you the mic. Hi, most meta. How are you, GM? Yeah, loud and clear. You're all good. Same. I think that's definitely a recurring theme, and thank you for mentioning all those good points. I completely agree. I really think it's about those priceless moments that you really can't replicate unless you attend these types of IRL events. I also just want to mention, I don't think it came up in the conversation at all, but I feel like we were seeing a lot of merch as well, and there was a lot of hot merch, to be honest. It was, I think, Jeremy, you had some. I know there was a couple of different artists that, and even the Art Blocks merch itself.
Copy.
Yeah. There was a lot of cool stuff that honestly I think is such a great way to, I don't want to necessarily say onboard, but I would wear in my everyday. And I know I feel like a lot of people were talking about it more this year. They noticed it. They copped some t-shirts and hoodies and all these different things. And I think it's just another outlet to get artwork out or to just build out this Web3 ecosystem. Like it's not just about the digital, it's about physicals, and outside of prints, what else do people like to wear? Seeing really nice quality and nice designed merch was, I think, a huge component this year. Another thing I want to just talk about, I know Milton and I were talking, and other people during the actual events, that I think more of like I don't want to say an obstacle, but just something to kind of reflect on and maybe how can we improve for the next few events. The lack of females, I think, was very noticeable from both sides of the equation. I think it was men that were noticing it, females that were noticing it, and trust me, like I roll like I'm one of the boys. Like I don't care, but at the same time, I do think it's important to get more of a female presence to these events. So I'm just curious, like anyone's thoughts on how this could potentially be improved. Like, do more of the crypto bros need to bring their girlfriends to these events? Like, I don't really know,
That's
but
my question. Is everyone single, or do people's like significant others just not want to go?
I
Dude,
do
I'm getting a
appreciate.
girlfriend this bull run. I promise, bro. I know I said that the last bull run,
Same.
but I'm getting one this one. No, you know, I'm gonna
I
give.
do think one of the challenges of bringing a partner to these events, um, male, female, whatever, is that this world's so like focused, and I find, given the limited amount of time we have in person together, to have to worry about somebody else when you're trying to make like you saw it was rolling around. I think that might be one of the challenges, and I also think the generally younger age of the people in this space, like if you work at a company where people are older, they often incorporate partners in the events. I just think a lot of these people who are like 22, 24, 26, often it's not, the same thing. Just a random thought. But I've thought about it a lot because I think it makes it much harder, and generally much harder for women who are, underrepresented. And I think it's a real issue I can understand.
Attendance typically reflects the stage, and we had only a few women that were on exhibit during during the week. And so moving forward, if we can get more women artists to start showing their work, and we could be more mindful of the mix of men and women that are being showed, and us, them, everybody, the more of that, the better, right? And I think that, we had probably 85, 90% men that were displaying, and that's exactly what the crowd looked like. So I think one of the easiest layups is to invite more women artists and collectors, because it's not like they're not here. It's not like they're not part of the scene already. And yeah, my wife would have fucking hated it. Just like in the middle of nowhere, all kinds of nerds, people getting drunk and falling all over each other. She would have been like, what are you fucking doing in this scene, bro? You got to get out of this. So we'll just keep
It's
my wife
risky,
at
right?
home. You know what I mean?
Hey, I agree with that, but a little bit of pushback. Like if you go through the list that we mentioned earlier, you got Rebecca Rose, who was just with us on stage. You had Alyssa Stevens, and then you had Mona. So Mona was there. That's more than 5% of the exhibitors, but I swear it was
Yeah, about
5%
about
of women.
45%. We
Yeah,
got about 45% to go. You know what I mean?
yeah. No, I'm with that. I'm with that. And I would encourage anybody that knows 90cc, reach out to them, ask them how the hell they pulled off NFT NYC. Their event was literally 50% women. I don't know how they
No,
did it.
no. I think Milton, it plays a role, not to cut you off, but like it was in New York. Like I think it's different. And um I don't completely agree either with Paper Buddha. Like, yes, you could have more women showcase, of course, and yes, it'll get more women there. But I do think like that's one artist, right? It's not like she's gonna bring 10 friends with her. I think the crowd in general needs more females. And I think it just overall reflects the entire space of obviously there's more men in the industry than females. But I just feel like also Marfa, like in NFT NYC, there's people that are just walking off of the street and coming into certain events, etc. And maybe that was also, I think, a problem. Go ahead, Milton. I didn't mean to cut you off like that. That was a little rude of me.
No, you're good. You're good. I think you're totally right about that. And yeah, it is a bit of a journey. And yeah, you might have to do your hair a couple times along the way if you're a female. So I don't have that problem. But moving on, I think we've been praising them so much right now. I just wanted to mention one other thing that I heard talking about in a few circles, just constructive criticism on things you could do better. I think there's been these really cool opportunities to not only collect badass art, but Probably flip something, which is hey, you got to appeal to the degens too. So last year that was the die with the most likes, the beef brothcos. If you got in early on that, those are worth a pretty penny today. And then this year it was the X copies where they hid 100 cards, sorry, 69 cards rather, for the upcoming one of 500 generative project with art blocks, which is going to be super special in my opinion. And I would have loved to have found a card myself. I heard through the grapevine that there were people who found more than one card, like 5 and 10. And I think if you set it up more like a treasure hunt where there were clues and it was based on finding these through figuring out clues, through some effort, some mental effort, that might be a fairer way to do it. I think there might have been some insider quote unquote trading going on there. So I would just like to see that maybe done a little bit differently next year. OG,
Hard art.
yeah.
If you're just talking about, like, I don't flip stuff, but if you're talking about stuff that went up fast, Clown Vamps Mint was at 0.08, I think, which is high, but it's now trading 0.3, 0.33, 0.37. So that was, however, I think it's only one metric, but financially successful in the way you're discussing.
Was
Yep.
that out of
Yep. Good
curiosity
point.
in person? Was that in person, exclusive, or like first access in person, or was it? I'm not that familiar. I'm just
No,
curious.
you know what? I'm gonna sound like a moron. I apologize. I had asked like CV to mint to for me to hold, so I think like it was there during Marfa. I don't know if it was only in person, but the event was in Marfa and the mint was there. Let me hold on. I'll find out. 1 second. I'll let you know.
Sorry, I did not
Go
mean to
ahead.
put you on the spot.
Yeah, and I would point out too, just from my perspective, like I didn't stay in town, so that's maybe an advantage that I could have had I stayed in town, and that's probably a little head nod to the people who booked early, the real diehard fans. So I didn't have really my mornings like a lot of people did to go search for the card. So salty party of one, salty party of one. You can call me out on that for sure. But yeah, I just thought maybe a little more democratic way to spread out those X copies in particular might be an interesting way to do it next year. Though I'm sure there will be a different drop next year that's promoted, but just something to think about.
One thing, I guess, just before we start wrapping
Vasia,
it up.
sorry,
Yeah, no,
CV
go
hit me
for it.
back. You could mint from
Yeah.
anywhere at home too. Anyone could mint. Only
Okay.
printing was just the machine, so it was available.
Got it. Got it. Thank you for clarifying. One other thing I wanted to kind of just bring up, I don't have an answer. I asked Milton before the space, and actually, he's smarter than he looks. He actually came back with a good answer. But I wanted to just ask and kind of have it open ended. We obviously talk a lot about the importance of these IRL events, how great they are, the impact, the value that they bring. But what about the people that genuinely cannot attend? And I just want to have this conversation candidly. Like, let's say it's distance, finances, etc. Like, there's obstacles. Let's be realistic. Not everyone has the same opportunities. So, is there anything that we can kind of key takeaway for them? Any kind of advice we would give them? Go ahead. Oh, Paper Buddha, go ahead. You have an answer straight away.
Yeah,
Go for
I
it.
was going to come back to what I was talking about with Die with the Most Likes. I think that's a fucking perfect example of somebody that logistically was not able to make it, had a huge presence, outsized relative to them being there, Um, and I think that those kind of things are great. And I think that one thing I've wanted to do in my events is to actually have kind of a live stream. Like if I had an artist that was displaying in the gallery and they weren't able to make the show, I would want them to be on a screen right next to their display on FaceTime and just like sitting there talking to people as they come in, and like just like they were a virtual person, right? So I think there's a lot of really cool technology that can help us bridge that gap and be, yes, maybe you're not here physically, but I am, and you can have a digital avatar here and we can talk. I think that's one of the really cool promises of this kind of future technology we're working with. So finding clever ways to use the technology to still be involved, I think is important, but also the physicality, coming back to Die, and he is able to not in a non-digital way have a prank, call the taco truck, here's what we're going to do, do you have ground beef, can you get the sparklers, like that shit is analog, that's not digital, and so either way I think works. I'm a really personally a really big fan of analog lo-fi guerrilla marketing I like that scrappy shit because I think that it really puts impact in there. And then the digital stuff is really, really cool too. And you can flex your technical ability. If I walked into the White Wall galleries and Rebecca Rose hadn't have made it, but there was a screen just as big as her display with her sitting at home smiling at me, like quite literally FaceTiming me. And I'm like, yo, Rebecca. She's like, yo, PB, I couldn't make it. I'm glad that you're there looking at my stuff. You can do that right the fuck now with your iPhone. You don't gotta wait for nobody. So that kind of stuff, I think, just thinking outside of the box and meditating on shit. I really wish I could get to Marfa, but I live in, Morocco, and how am I going to get from Morocco to Marfa? That's wild. So there's going to be times where we just can't make it, right? My passport shit was a mess for the first couple of years, and I wasn't able to make European stuff. Now I am. So you'll see me go over there. But up until then, I was in people's ears. I was really active on the timeline, making sure I was still part of the conversation. So as people were talking about, let's say Marfa, and you're at home in Chicago, you just jump in and like always be making comments on the Marfa content as it's coming out, and we will feel like you were there with us.
Great point, BB. That's super on point. Yeah, something to think about. Rebecca has got her hand raised. Rebecca, you almost didn't make it. Would you have FaceTimed in had you not made it?
Oh man, I skated in 6 minutes after it started by the skin of my teeth. It was that close. Yeah, I almost didn't make it. A story for another time. But if we think about like for NFT NYC, a lot of artists can't go to that either. But there's that one big billboard in the middle of Times Square. What is it? The THX? No, it's not THX, whatever that billboard is where you pay like $40 to have your artwork shown. Like if there's somebody that can like create an experience like that for Marfa, and that way artists get presence there without actually being there, I think that would be cool to explore. But yeah, I wouldn't mind FaceTiming it. I'd send you guys a hologram of me. How about that?
Yeah, be on brand, right? We got to have you in 3D for sure. So I love that.
I
Eh,
gotta hop. I have an interview at 3:30, but it's been great talking with everybody, and y'all are a fabulous bunch of people to hang with in real life, especially in that country setting, I gotta say. And Steven, I hope your digestive system is okay after those die with the most likes burritos. I was worried about you, man. But later, talk to you guys
See you,
soon.
Rebecca. Thanks for being with us. And also, I think your earlier comment would tie in well with this. One thing that I thought was cool, Paper Buddha did at our ranch. Paper Buddha's been bringing out signed prints, which I am now the proud owner of 4 of, and he left some for the ranch owners. He left them on the billiards table. So, Rebecca, if you had that program you were talking about where you're reaching out to Marfa, A, that might help us with the cop situation we just talked about, maybe get the 5-0 off our ass a little bit. But B, I think you could build some goodwill and get some presence where even if you couldn't be present, you still have art to be shown, to be seen, maybe in a public place, even where everybody can enjoy it. So I thought that was a great recommendation earlier, Rebecca. And thanks for being such a badass cook, too. Thanks for sharing the stage with us, Rebecca Rose. Glad that you did make it in person because I got to meet you for the first time and you're as sweet as you look and sound. So that was very nice, a nice treat. But Vasia, yeah, it's funny. You and I talked about this space today. We had less time to plan it because we've been in Marfa and we thought this space might go for an hour, and here we are at 2.5. So I think we wanted to start to move it towards wrapping up, but we maybe have a couple of speakers before we do that. I think Gringo Huddle is on stage for the first time. So Gringo, welcome.
Hey, friends. Yeah, you all sold me on Marfa. That sounds amazing, and it was definitely that Texas accent there, Milton. That really drove it home for me. So, no, but I wanted to throw out some real quick DJ news. While you guys were out of town, I don't know if you heard it, but there are now AI agent millionaires in crypto, and like Zero Bro, look that one up. Look up Terminals of Truth. This morning, I was speaking on the Web3 Breakfast Club space, with the J Chain's crew, and this artist came on towards the end, and she was very well spoken. And actually, J Chain's commented like, "Wow, you have a very calming voice. Like, you're welcome on stage anytime." No one noticed, but I did, and messaged everyone in the private chat. She was an AI agent, is what it looks like, in the chat, talking with everyone. So I think we're about to see some crazy stuff happening with AI generative art. And Zero Bro already has art on blockchains, which are just sold out, going crazy. So that's my little bit of DJ news for the Web3 crew here.
I'm gonna go back to Marfa and just flush my phone and just live off the grid. Like, that is wild to me. I don't know. I'm very torn. Love, hate, extra hate relationship with this AI stuff. Thank you for filling us in. I think that was also one of the refreshing parts about Marfa. Like, I used to hate it in the beginning of getting flooded with messages and then having to catch up. But honestly, I really appreciate being locked in during those few days and just not having to worry and just blaming it on the quote unquote terrible service and really being present with everyone in person. I know we talked a lot about, obviously, the people that went there went because they took this seriously, went because they had intentions and, you know, wanted to be there and really be there in person. So yeah, wow, Gringo, that just, ugh, I hate that. But okay, I appreciate you filling us in. On that note, Milton, I really can't believe we've hit over the 2-hour mark. That's wild. I am just going to wrap it up like usual. First of all, I just want to thank everyone again for, number one, tuning in and taking the time, especially as many of us are still, I think, rebounding from Marfa. One thing I wanted to mention, in case there are artists in the room that maybe didn't see it and would be interested, I just pinned it up again on the Jumbotron, as Milton likes to call it. Art Blocks did announce that they're doing a artist residency program in Marfa in collaboration with OpenSea. All the information is kind of on there, but feel free to check it out. I think it's an amazing opportunity. I love seeing more of these artist residency programs pop up. I think it's amazing, and good luck to everyone that applies. I also just want to obviously give a huge thank you again to everyone that was just responsible for producing this event. Like, at the end of the day, it's not easy. There was a lot of moving parts, obviously, and it's extremely different experience when you're attending an event and when you're actually producing and putting on the event. So shout out to Art Blocks, to Snowfro, to Glitch Gallery, White Walls, Maker's Place, all the different teams, and many people that I'm missing, by the way, and I just want to not to overlook or overshadow anybody. It's just I also didn't get to attend all of the different things. But again, just thank you to everyone for taking on this massive task. And like usual, I like to finish the spaces with just one or two big key takeaways. This one is an easy one. It's the importance of IRL. I think it's absolutely what everyone keeps saying, how much value these events bring. And I think it is interesting that we are starting to see a bit of a movement away from the corporate bigger conferences and more towards these, you know, intimate settings where it's not necessarily a rave you're going to, but you're able to actually meet people, see art. Art is at the focus, it's at the forefront, and again, just an amazing experience. It was my first time in Marfa, so thank you to everyone who I also got to meet in person, who made this experience extremely memorable for me, and hopefully we'll see many of you in Miami. I'm still kind of torn, but it looks like I will be coming down to Miami. I just want to finish off by saying Milton and I host these spaces every Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern. I will pin it up one more time. Feel free to subscribe. We keep these conversations in an archive, so we do post on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, and all the major streaming platforms. So again, appreciate you guys tuning in. The support means the world, and looking forward to next week's conversation. I actually think we already picked the tweet. It's one that went viral and has a lot of controversy around it. So I'm excited to get a little spicy in our conversation next week. Milton, if we don't have anything else to add, I think just thanks again, guys, for tuning in, and we can hopefully close out with some more country music that I love.
Yeah, we got a little song called Texas Sun by Khruangbin and Leon Bridges. So let's play that on the way out. And I look forward to joining the conversation next week. Thanks for everybody who tuned in.
Thanks for tuning into Moments the Podcast. If you enjoyed today's conversation, make sure to subscribe and follow us to keep up with all the latest trending Web3 topics. Join us every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern on X for our live space and be a part of the dialogue.